All right. Hopefully we're live because I am not hosting this episode of the Xbox 2. I am Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, but today you might refer to me as Dark Rand.
Dark Rand.
With me, Dark Rand, yes. With me as always, we have Jez Corden, managing editor, Windows Central. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I mean, I've been out today, so I wasn't working today because of family emergency. So most of the day I was out, and I live in the countryside, and the internet's just not great. I can go for like hours without a signal, and I decided to go for hours without a signal on today. Probably the biggest day in the whole Activision Blizzard saga since forever. And I finally get back, and I open my Twitter, and I've got like dozens of DMs. I got hundreds of mentions, and it's like, what's going on? What's going on?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Hey, Blizzard's coming home, Jez.
Blizzard's coming home. Oh,
but
man.
Before we get into all that, we should make mention that about an hour ago I started having really bad internet issues. Randomly at points when me and Jez were trying to set up the show and actually go live, my internet would just drop out for 20 seconds. And it did it like 3 times. So that's why Jez is actually hosting the show. So let us know if the audio levels are good, because he normally doesn't do this. I'm usually in charge of all this sort of stuff. It feels weird not to be actually streaming the show. And maybe the internet holds up during this epic 4-hour podcast we're about to go on. Otherwise, you might hear me cut out, but 20 seconds later, I'll obviously rejoin. I don't know. Maybe the internet will be good, because I have reset my modem and restarted my PC a couple times already. But I didn't want to let you guys know that I was having some internet issues, so we might run into some problems.
We're gonna try and persevere. I've got I've actually got a sound gate on my microphone now.
Joaquin says that your mic is a little low.
Okay, we'll
turn it up.
Testing. I don't know. Maybe it's the noise gate I've got on it. Maybe
professional podcast.
Doing this shit live. I'm probably going to end up being too loud for you, right?
I'll turn
you can turn me down. Testing. I don't know. Yeah, I got a noise gate on the mic, because last week people said they could hear clicking and stuff, and so I'm trying to improve the mic audio, and trying to get to that professional podcasting level. But now we've got Rand's great internet problems, which is adding another curveball into the mix. But hey, we're gonna persevere. We'll try and get through it, and rock and roll, baby. It's professional podcasting.
Rock and roll indeed. It's definitely been a very interesting week. I actually put out 2 videos. I actually put out some videos this month. I think I've put out 5 videos so far. I actually plan on making a video about all this stuff tomorrow, so that should be fun to do. And yesterday's video, man, Dark Rand made an appearance.
Yes, he did. I was actually surprised.
There's just been a lot of BS I've been seeing lately, right? A lot, and I don't know. I had to speak out. Like, look, I'm not here to shill for Xbox. You guys know. I actually got called an Xbox shill today by a couple people, but you guys know. Sometimes even you guys criticize us for being too harsh on Xbox. I just want Xbox to do better. And the thing is, it's like, when all the stuff that happened this week with Redfall, the previews, right? Mostly positive. There were some ones that were negative, but nobody even remembers the previews anymore, because it's about, you're taking my games from me, Phil. You lied. You've been lying this whole time. We can't trust you. Sony was right. Sony was right. You'd be doing anything, lying, you know. And I've never seen a group of people who hate Xbox games and hate Xbox as a platform suddenly shift and cry about the idea that the publisher Xbox bought was going to make some of these games exclusives. And yeah, there was going to be a PlayStation version. I thought the game was midfield or midfall or deadfall. But suddenly everybody's like, exclusives are bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth here. You know,
we want this game on our PlayStation 5. Like, yeah, because everybody wants Xbox exclusives. That's why. Man, it's gonna be a really great show. Really fantastic. There's a lot here to talk about. I mean, obviously the CMA stuff, the Hellblade 2 stuff, Starfield versus Spider-Man 2, senators calling out Sony's monopolistic practices.
Yes.
I mean, it's gonna be. Yeah, so like the show, guys. Make sure you like the show. Please hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 100K. It's probably going to take, the rest of the year. But, there always comes with benefits like being on camera, potentially. So, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. We do have some housekeeping to take care of. Yes, Jez?
Yes, we do. I'll do the patron shout-outs because Rand might get disconnected halfway through. But before I do, I need people in chat to tell me, does my mic sound okay now? I've been tweaking it and stuff. It's really hard because I can't hear what I sound like. Like I need to get one of those fancy setups where like you can hear what you sound like when you're also talking, But I don't have that yet. But maybe something that we'll be investing in going forward. Oh man, I need a sound engineer. Man, we should hire a sound engineer around, but
we should hire a producer so we can have this podcast looking fire because this is too much for us to do on our own,
Maybe. Okay, people said I'm too loud. I've turned down the gain a little bit. Hopefully that's a little bit better. It sounds worse. It's better now. It's bearable. Man, I don't know what to do. I turned the gain down a bit now, so hopefully it's a little less crazy. Just peaking. Okay, but it's really hard. Switch back to old mic. It's the same mic. Same mic. Loud but fuzzy sounding. It's really tough to do anything. I'll just let's just turn.
You sound too quiet to me.
Too quiet? Well, you can turn me up on your end, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I also just listening at it at normal things, and you do sound too quiet.
You were never too loud. It's too quiet. It's better now. Too low. Too low. Okay, how is it now?
That's good. That's good. Leave it there. That sounds good.
Is that okay?
That sounds good to me.
Bit higher. Can't hear you. No, it's way too low. Can't hear. I'll edit all this out of the Spotify version. Too low. Bit higher. Volume way low. Man, what the hell? Jez is in a box. Good now. It's fine. Jez at ASMR levels. It's good now.
You sound good to me. Listen to me because I have everything dialed in at like 100, and you sound fine.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to roll with that for now, I guess. Oh man, you should switch back to your old mic. It's the same mic I had last week. I'll just tweak some of the settings.
This is my fault because my internet was screwing up. So Jez is streaming everything, and it sounds a little bit different when I do it every week. So blame Comcast, blame Xfinity for my internet going in and out. Although it hasn't happened yet, which is a plus. Maybe we can get through the show without it having happened. But we couldn't risk it. We couldn't risk a thing like last week where OBS crashed on me and we had to start a new show. But anyways, you're good.
Okay, well, let's go then. Patreon shoutouts, let's go. So thanks to everyone who subscribes to our Xbox 2 Patreon, which is at patreon.com/XB2. You get some exclusive shows there. You get also Q&A access and a bunch of other perks and cool stuff for the show. Shout outs this week are the grandest of BIP, Chris Pernice, Tharsman, Hey Blinkin, The Bearded Tate, Sleet XZ, Army Dude 52C, Mr. Butterjeans, William Schumacher, Ryan Keipel, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Tyler, Gunstar75, Moronic Donkey 99, C Money, Mario Kart, Madman on YouTube, Macazilla, Haters Will Be Haters, Randall 419, Silis, Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, James Moore, Halo is the franchise player, Catriox, Ricky Felon, Bright101, Jasper Shapp, Joseph Campbell, I Got Bored, Mr. Joanna Dark, Justin Duell, Frank Marino, Pibro King, Justin Miller, Ace Madison, Untidy Tim, Grizzly Mofo OG, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Justin Sago, Andrew Courtney, Woggerman Achievement, The Scarecrow 1-1, Darren Torpy, Professor JJJ, Butterball 8, Ghostface Killer, Wolfgang KPZ, and Ralph Wiggum. Thanks to everyone for subscribing on Patreon. And also, you can also grab 20% off at manscaped.com using our code XB2. Code's still live.
Yes.
So if you are interested.
Code will be live for months to come.
Yes.
But we do have an announcement. Xbox 2 Plus 1 will be returning next week.
Oh, yes.
And it's very interesting because we have a guest who's, I mean, with all the stuff's going on, this is a very, very good time to get this guest. So, Jez, why don't you tell everybody who we will be interviewing, talking to about Xbox and the ABK deal on Monday. I believe it's 11 a.m. Central Time, so like noon Eastern, I believe is the time. But yeah, who's the guest?
I'll have more details up on the Patreon about exactly when the timing is for that show. But we're getting Florian Mueller on from Foss Patents. So for those who don't know, Florian's been covering the Xbox deal from a legal perspective over the last few months, and a lot of these predictions about the way the regulatory process was going to go through went through as exactly as he predicted. So we're going to get him on, grill him a little bit, learn some more details about where Xbox needs to go from here, and with regards to regulatory stuff in the EU, the FTC, and get some timeline stuff on that, and also learn a little bit more about Florian. So that should be fun on Monday. Temporarily exclusive to Patreon, and then it will go live a few days later on my YouTube channel, Jez Says. And
Indeed.
Yeah.
But yeah, Foss Patton's been, he's been pretty on point with a lot of his analysis of what's going on. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to talk to him about, especially the stuff that happened today, right? So.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be on Monday around noon, but we'll let the Patreon people know about that. So,
indeed.
But with that, I think it's the housekeeping's over. Let's talk about let's get some of these super chats, Jez, and we'll dive straight in to everything. So we have, let's see here, we have Melissa and Alex Family, who says, "Hey, been listening for a long time, first time viewing it live, love the content." It's awesome to always see people that come in here and say, "Hey, I've been listening for a while," or "I've been listening on Spotify or iTunes," which, by the way, if you are, make sure you leave us like a review, 5-star. Much appreciated. Keep us number one in search for Xbox. Drive up those numbers. It's always super cool to see people that listen to it later and never listen live that say, "Hey, this is my first time live. Hope you enjoy the show." Well, clearly you do because you do listen to it, but listening live, interacting with the chat is always a really cool thing. We have Garkle, who says, "Can Microsoft now advertise Game Pass to PlayStation users? Before the COD Studio logos, could they have a giant Xbox Game Pass logo? Untapped potential, in my opinion."
Well, I mean, one of the things that's going to sort of, as a result of this CMA ruling, which we'll talk about in more detail later, I would expect that Sony and Microsoft will finally start negotiating on what Call of Duty on PlayStation looks like. I would expect Sony won't want Xbox Game Pass marketing on the PlayStation version of Call of Duty. And I also expect Microsoft will try to accommodate Sony, even though Sony's been a pain in the ass about this whole deal. I do expect Microsoft to accommodate Sony as much as possible, and also, try and keep things fair, as part of the deal. They said a lot of that stuff with, Brad Smith was theatrically waving around the contract saying, "We've already got the contract. We just need to talk to Sony about it." So like I expect that, you know, some of Sony's parity concerns will be put into practice with regards to polish, bugs, and visual
Yeah.
delivery, and
Well,
that'll probably include marketing as well.
this kind of goes into the question that Owl Theory has in chat. He says, "Why don't they slap an Xbox logo on the front of all the ABK Bethesda games?"
Well,
And
sorry,
like with Bethesda, even like with Hi-Fi Rush and presumably with Redfall, we've seen that the Xbox doesn't even put their logo in front of those things. I would imagine the same thing would happen with ABK, that you would see Call of Duty be on PlayStation, but you wouldn't see any mention of Xbox anywhere,
yeah,
right? As they sort of kind of operate a little bit independently in a certain way. So yeah, I don't expect that to happen. But I do expect Microsoft to promote it heavily about the idea of Call of Duty being on Game Pass when they can actually have the marketing deal. Like you'll see Call of Duty in promotions for Game Pass and probably in the commercials and things like that when they're able to. But I don't think you'll ever see it mentioned in on the PlayStation version of it.
yeah. I mean, all those details we worked out, we'll find out more in the near future. But any more super chats, Rand?
Yeah, we got let's see here. We have Carl Andrews Jr. who says, "Jez, have you had any crashing issues with Diablo 4?"
I haven't, but I've been disconnected while playing Diablo 4 on my Xbox. But a friend of mine who's got a NVIDIA 3080 RTX Ti thingy, her graphics card just full blown crashed playing Diablo 4. So yeah, there are some issues with certain graphics cards, especially, you know, if you're on PC, and there are some issues on the console versions as well. But you know, it's a beta. They've been very, very vocal about the fact that this isn't a marketing thing. It is a beta test. They are stress testing the servers. They're gathering feedback. They're analyzing bugs. There's a big bug report button if you pause the game. I've filed a bunch of bug reports myself because I found like a load of invisible walls in one of the dungeons, for example. So yeah, there will be bugs, there will be crashes, and you know, it's a true beta. True beta. I did try and queue earlier for Diablo 4, by the way, which the Patreon peeps voted for right here on the stream right now. So that's my Diablo 4 gameplay from when I was playing it last week. And I did try and queue before the podcast ran. I thought maybe I can get a cheeky 30 minutes in or something, right?
A cheeky 30 minutes turns into a cheeky 4 hours.
Well, a cheeky 4 hours of queuing, maybe. So the queue time was 130 minutes when I tried to join earlier. And yeah, I was like, yeah, I ain't playing Diablo for this side of the podcast. So, but my girlfriend has promised to try it with me because I'm still trying to get into gaming. You know, I thought Hogwarts Legacy would do it, man, because she's a huge Harry Potter fan, but nope. Even Hogwarts Legacy, man, it's really hard.
Nick says there's a fix to the 3080 Ti brick. Kay Asante in the chat says Diablo 4 crashed on him a few minutes ago, and he's using a 3080 as well, but he just got the driver update, and he's waiting in a 25-minute queue. Jabba says Diablo has a 2-hour wait at the moment. So
yeah, it's man, it's serious queues. Well, it's open beta, and they're stress testing the servers because they want to gauge how many servers they might need on launch day and stuff. Because like if you spin up too many servers, then it, you know, you potentially waste money. But if you spin up too few, then GG, you get 2 hour, 3 hour queues.
Are you going to be able to cope with 2 months of not having Diablo, essentially?
Man, you know, I don't know, man. I mean, it helps that World of Warcraft just got a huge update and there's loads of fresh things to do, so that should keep me going for a few weeks. And then after I get bored of that, Redfall drops, so I should be able to get some gameplay out of that. And we're going to be talking about Redfall in a bit, right, Rand? Because there was a huge wave of previews this week.
Huge preview. Our buddy Colt Eastwood put out an amazing video, as he always does. He's so good at YouTube, bro. So good. He spends so much time perfecting his stuff. But yeah, a lot of Redfall previews. Not only Redfall previews, but people are playing Minecraft Legends as well. I saw your cohort from Windows Central was out there playing the game.
Yes, Windows Central is getting a preview of Minecraft Legends, which is awesome. It's my colleague Zachary Bodie on Twitter, so look out for that one. But Rand, we should send Colt some get well soon wishes, because didn't he break
Colt.
his arm or something?
No, he didn't break his arm. He was playing football. Football is a 41-year-old flag football, nonetheless. And he did a juke move and a spin, and he fell down onto his shoulder, and dislocated his shoulder. But that's not stopping Colt. He's gaming with with that separated shoulder and a sling, and he's out there making memes. Making memes. People
from his hospital bed.
People were mad at me, Jez. I don't normally tweet very much, mainly because I don't really have much to say. But I really like the Hellblade 2 footage. As you know, I've constantly said Hellblade 2 is my most anticipated game from Xbox Game Studios. I love the first game. I played it twice. People come at me like, you only like it because it's an Xbox exclusive. It's like, bro. Like, I literally played that day one on PlayStation 4, and I think the only trophy I'm missing is the collectibles. And then I played it again when it came to Xbox. Like, Hellblade 2, I have been waiting for. So I made some tweets. There's an epic meme that Miles Dumper made, right? That everybody stole it. I stole it. I didn't steal from him. I saw it from somebody else. But it was basically like, hey, just get an Xbox, because there's a lot of people crying this week. And then not only did other people steal Miles' meme, at least he claims he's the one who made it, but the official Xbox account stole it and made it a meme and didn't credit Miles whatsoever.
Bro, that's like the tip of the iceberg on Xbox stealing memes.
It is.
My former colleague Matt Brown, who's moved on to bigger and brighter things. Shout out to Matt Brown, by the way. Matt Brown was like my number 2 guy at Windows Central, like helping with everything. He did so much traffic, and a lot of the Windows Central content that helped run the business was produced by Matt Brown. And bless him, he escaped games journalism. He got a proper job. Yeah,
proper.
He works for a pharmaceutical conglomerate now. Bless him.
Jez, do you want a proper job? Don't you love blogging and writing and doing the podcasts and stuff, talking about Xbox? Don't you enjoy it?
Yeah, man. I mean, this is my life, but it's not for everyone. But sure. I do wonder if because Matt Brown created a meme that Xbox not only stole, but they made a whole ass product out of. Matt Brown was the first person who made the Xbox fridge meme.
Oh, really? He did the fridge meme.
So okay. He did the first Photoshop of Xbox as a fridge. Someone else probably would have done it, because it does look like a fridge. But that was the first thing he did. He made the Xbox fridge meme. And I was like, man, you should sue Microsoft and try and get a cut of all those Xbox mini fridge sales, man.
People are making fun of it because I said stole. I meant, stole. And someone's like stealing his dad's quarters. You're damn right I did. You damn right I took all them quarters to play those arcade games, to play Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 3 and The Simpsons. I got no shame. He knows it. The Simpsons. My whole family knows it. My whole clearly, it would go into the closet. I would grab the 1-gallon jug of milk that we would pour all the coins into, and I would just take all the quarters. Like, of course he knew, because you would see that it was basically empty. Like, it's not like he doesn't know or didn't know. I'm not ashamed of it. Whatever. I got to play a lot of video games at arcades because of that. Whatever. Stole.
You stole the Shimpsons.
What? Why you gotta make fun of me? We're not here to make fun of Rand and Jez. We're here to make fun of other people today.
Okay, let's make fun of other people, bro. Got any more super chats?
Yes, we do. We have the one and only Achievement, who is an incredible person, good friend, and Patreon member. He says,
producer.
Yeah, he's a producer as well. Do you think Xbox is currently working on 2 different E3 conferences, depending whether the deal closes by then or not? Imagine if they announced just one ABK exclusive within months of deal closing. Interesting question, Achievement. Interesting question. I would say no. I think Xbox has been planning the June event for a long time now. These things take quite some time to kind of lock it in, not only with first party, determining like what games are going to be there, having those teams prepare clips. And we talked with Jeff Grubb during Xbox 2+1. And one of the things, that he said is it takes so long to sort of get not necessarily a vertical slice, but to get a couple minutes of footage to put on your show. So all those things are being planned in advance. However, on that kind of topic of like what could they do, right? Let's take a trip down to Speculation Town, hypothetical, right?
Speculation Town.
Speculation Town, where Pong Soul and Mav live. But we're gonna visit here because I did have a thought. I did post it in one of the Discords I'm in, and I thought to myself, well, this looks like it looks like this deal's gonna be approved. I think everybody here would agree, right? And if you do agree, if you think this deal's gonna get approved, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. See what I did there, Jez? See what I did? Anyways, there's still the FTC. Even if the EC and the CMA approve it, as well as like China, and I think there's still like New Zealand and some other countries. Let's say it's all gets approved. The EC is giving them to May 22nd, which is pretty close to June. I could see Microsoft closing it, right? And I know people expect maybe another like Xbox Activision roundtable thing, which they could do. But if they close it in May or June, maybe that's a little bit too close to the June 11th showcase, right? So there was a part of me that was like, well, what if they close it in June and they announce it? And they're like, all right, we're going to talk about all this stuff in the future. The plans are. But when you come to the June 11th show and they say, hey, Activision Blizzard is closed. We're welcoming all the studios. We got some great games coming. And they're like, but right now you can download all these games on Game Pass.
Oh my God.
And that could be a huge surprise. Like, so the deal closes early June, late May. But because they're doing the showcase, they can mention to everybody watching, hey, these games, we own them now. But then it's like, they're all on Game Pass now. And introducing Crash Bash, which will be launching on day one, or potentially, Diablo 4 launching then, where they could have their sales for a week or two. And I'm just speculating. There's a part of me that's like, that could be a fun surprise, where they're just like, by the way, all these Call of Duties on Game Pass right now. All these other Activision games, Game Pass right now. Download it. And then, I don't know. Is that something that could be possible? This is something I was thinking about. Thinking a little surprise, you know what I'm saying?
I think it's entirely possible that they do this with a big fanfare. I don't think they'll change their E3 plans specifically. I think we're still going to get a dedicated Xbox show and the Starfield direct thing as a separate entity. But you have to remember that Blizzard does things its very Blizzard way. ABK and Activision does things a little bit differently as well. Like the Call of Duty marketing cycle is basically its own thing. But that being said, isn't Sony's marketing deal with Call of Duty up this year, or is it next year?
I think Brad Smith said it ends next year.
Okay.
So I don't think they could market Call of Duty, but that's not to say they couldn't put some of the Call of Duties on Game Pass. We don't really know. I do get a sense that if the deal does go through, at some point Diablo will be on there, and I bet you they put Call of Duty 2023 on there. I know what they've sort of said. I wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't. But I think it's possible. But speculation and everything about surprises. It's only really because it'd be really close to that showcase. And I'm sure they would want to remind people who are tuning in that, hey, we own Activision Blizzard now. And obviously Game Pass is a huge thing where probably most of the games at the show will be Game Pass titles. You could easily have a segment, not that long, where it's like, hey, Activision Blizzard, all these games are ours. By the way, you can download everything right now on Game Pass. And it could, everybody's watching is like, oh my God, that'd be crazy. Or they could do it separately, where it's its own news story, its own sort of thing. I was just thinking, well, maybe they could combine the two because it's so close. But maybe not.
They also need to spin up Xbox backwards compatibility again. We need singularity.
There were rumors about that.
We need singularity. We need prototype. There's so many ABK games. Like, even, dude, screw it. Put the Guitar Hero. Well, actually, I suppose there'd be licensing nightmares to resolve with regards to Guitar Hero. But, Skylanders, the classic Spyro games or whatever. I know they remade some of them, didn't they? Or maybe they even ported them. Yes. I don't know. Maybe they're even already backwards compatible. I can't remember. But there's a load of games that ain't. And hopefully, as a result of this deal, there's a lot of stuff that could come back. I could see like some even games that are even further in the past, like the Hexen, for example, which I keep mentioning.
Singularity, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Stuff like even I'm talking like 90s or even 80s. They could put Pitfall on Xbox Game Pass.
I don't know about that.
But... Why not, man? Pitfall is sick, bro. It was one of the first games I ever played, Pitfall, and so good. Anyway,
we got some more to go through, Jez. More. Might be one of those shows. People are excited.
Blackthorn remake, yes.
Blackthorn remake.
Yeah.
My name is Mud says, what do you think the chances are Sony doesn't sign a deal for Call of Duty?
Oh my God, 0.
That is a very interesting question.
Surely
so you think Sony's calling and you think they're signing the deal like ASAP essentially?
Like there's no way they'd just like when we say deal, we're talking about them just rejecting having Call of Duty on PlayStation.
Oh well, they would never reject Call of Duty. Like if Jim Ryan was blocked Call of Duty from appearing on PlayStation to spite all this, he'd be literally fired the next day.
Right? Who?
By whoever, the CEO of all of Sony. I'm just saying, like,
the CEO?
No, he's the CEO of PlayStation. He's still a CEO of all of Sony
Entertainment. Like, yeah. I don't even know.
But I think the question is, what do you think the chances are Sony doesn't sign the deal? So the deal that Brad Smith, the deal that Brad Smith, you know, basically was waving around, be like, we're just waiting for Sony to sign, right? And Jim Ryan said at the Brussels meeting, I don't want a new Call of Duty deal. I just want a blocking merger, which, by the way, nobody from Sony has ever come out to dispute that was actually said, right? Nobody's come out to dispute that.
Yeah.
So the question is, if the CMA does approve it and everything, Microsoft's already signed deals with NVIDIA, Nintendo, Boosteroid, and Ubisoft, and I bet you there's probably more deals in the works, maybe even announced next week for more cloud stuff, because clearly that's the focus now. That's what European Commission is concerned about. That's what the CMA is concerned about.
Don't
right?
forget as well that Amazon Luna just this week entered the UK and European Union. So like Amazon Luna was like America exclusive, and now it's within the CMA's regulatory view.
So now the rest of the world can also not play Amazon Luna, right?
Hey, but either way, I'm actually planning to review Amazon Luna next week. So maybe it's actually great. You know?
Yeah. AJA says Rand getting super tongue twisted today. It feels weird. Normally I feel like I'm in control because I'm the one streaming everything. I'm the one doing everything. So it feels weird that I'm not. And
dude,
I'm sort of
I feel the same way.
Don't you? Like, yeah, it feels weird, right?
I'm like, oh shit, I'm like watching the audio levels on Streamlabs.
Yeah,
I'm like doing the time, you know? I'm watching the chat. Like, I feel like I'm supposed to be hosting just because I'm streaming. I'm trying to lead the conversation. I'm like, hang on, Rand's the main host. Really.
I just feel weird, and it's like seeping in where it's like, wait a minute, this is like opposite of what I normally do.
Yeah, breathe,
you know?
breathe.
But I mean, you guys know, hey, I had speech problems for years. Went to speech therapy. It's bound to happen. You get some good clips of me screwing up words, but
man, I really want someone to make a montage of all the times you screwed words
up. I know, right? I mean, if you watch my videos, it's like I say everything perfectly, and that's because I edit out all my mistakes and make it sound really good. That's not how it's like when we do the show live, right? But back to the question, essentially, will Sony sign the deal? Because if CMA is basically saying, you know, we're not worried about the console anymore. We're not worried about Xbox for closing on PlayStation. Xbox doesn't need to offer Sony anything anymore, right?
No.
They don't, because the CMA and the European Commission have decided that it's not a problem. The only thing that's a problem is cloud gaming, and Xbox is going to cover that, or Microsoft's going to cover that, signing these deals. So Microsoft could easily be like, you know that deal we had? Guess what? We're changing the deal. We're changing it now because
I don't alter it further.
Yeah, I know the FTC is still there and stuff like that, but
no,
I think Sony sees the writing on the wall. I think Sony sees the writing on the wall, and they want to make sure that they get that deal. So, I mean, Christopher Dring says he thinks like that's the next step, that Sony's basically going to sign that, which would torpedo the FTC's case, because the FTC and the like. So, dude, I could see. I think they will sign at some point. Yeah. Maybe they're not in a hurry today to sign it, but I think they will sign it. Because I don't think they can let it go, and Microsoft being like, well, guess what? It took your time. Yeah, you know what? There's some things here we're gonna change, and guess what? You can't do shit about it.
Oh man. Well, I would hope that Jim Ryan can, put away whatever ego he has, whatever sore feelings he has, because Microsoft can help Sony. They signed a deal for cloud, and then nothing came of it, and I think that before Jim Ryan's time. I kind of feel like maybe it was. Was that
Jim Ryan's been at Sony? Right, Jim Ryan was running Sony Europe or PlayStation Europe forever. It's the reason why he got promoted to run the whole thing, because I mean, Sony Europe is basically Sony land. But it was So when it came down to the infighting of who would control and run PlayStation, it was Jim Ryan versus essentially Sean Layden, and Jim won, as he should have, because look what he did. Because Sony was sort of siloed. You had Sony of Japan, Sony of Europe, and Sony of America, and they weren't necessarily always on the same page. And when Jim Ryan won, he kind of consolidated everything, right? So
yeah. I mean,
I want to be on the fly. I want to be on the fly on the wall on Brad Smith's office or Satya Nadella's office when that phone rings and the caller ID says blind, lying, crying, Jim dance move saving Private Ryan. Right? They're like, all right, you know what? Let it go. Let him call back.
Let it go.
So you don't pick up the phone on the first ring. You don't pick up at all that first time. It's like, yeah, let's keep him sweating a bit.
Well, dude,
and then, Jim Ryan calls back, and then you pick up the phone and be like, oh, Jim, how's the family? How's PlayStation? How's that high performance console market that kind of basically almost torpedoed your whole argument?
No,
you doing well? Okay. Oh, you want to talk about Call of Duty deals? You want to talk about terms and stuff? We can do that, Jim.
I just can't see Phil being like that. I can see Phil being like really humble, almost apologetic. But dude,
yeah, true.
Like, I just went back through all this stuff, and like I said earlier, like Microsoft can help Sony. Like Sony's president, Kenichiro Yoshida, who is now the full-blown CEO. So he's the one who penned this deal with Microsoft to collaborate on delivering games through the cloud. That was in 2019, and nothing came of it.
Yeah, and nothing probably will come of it either.
But like, I'm saying like it should though. I'm saying like Sony should prepare for the future by partnering with Microsoft and letting Microsoft deliver PlayStation games to any device. Why not? Like, meanwhile, Sony's trying to make VR happen, which we all know VR is not happening.
Hey, we got to give a shout out to the one and only Tim Dog in the chat. It's always good to see Tim. I know Tim is loving it right now. He's loving it, right? Loving everything's going on. Because, Tim's, I talked to Tim quite a bit. He's been very vocal about this deal. I remember one time he called me up and it was basically doom. He was like, Rand, I think this it's done, bro. I think it's done. They need to be back. And he was like affecting me. I was like, bro, I thought we were all good. What's going on? And Tim's like, it's done, Rand. It's and I'm like, calm down. Everything's okay. And then he talked to like a couple people. He's like, oh no, we're back on. It's good. So Tim's got to be feeling good today. But
I've had the same conversation with Tim, like myself. I was like, yeah, you're right, Tim. It is. We're screwed. It's doomed.
Yeah, because Jez was also in his feelings too, because he's like, "Damn it, stupid UK! I'm not gonna get my Blizzard." Obviously, it's amazing what can happen. But Tim drops a super chat in here that says, "Rand knows. Basically, heard Game Pass is getting Call of Duty, including the 2023 version, if the deal passes. Plan A." I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know nothing. I know nothing. I'm not an insider. I don't know shit.
Rand knows, guys. Rand knows everything.
That's not true. It's not true. That's not true whatsoever.
Rand's the ultimate insider. It's just
no.
In fact, I think like that's the snitch guy. I think that was secretly Rand. No.
Let's see what other ones we got here, because we have a lot coming in, Jez, and that probably this is going to be a long show.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I slept all afternoon.
You got your nap in.
Yeah,
you're right.
I got my nap in. Rock and roll. Let's do this. 5-hour podcast, baby. Let's do this.
Yeah. Snake says promote our GoFundMe R&J. That's right. Snakes. He let me and Jez know that his house burnt down, unfortunately, and he has a GoFundMe up. I think me and Jez both retweeted it. So if you want to support Snakes, you can scroll throughout Twitter and you can see the GoFundMe. So very awful thing that has happened. So
it's horrible, but
yeah.
I'm gonna try and find that and drop a retweet so people can find it again.
Yeah, Eric B. He says, "I've never played a Diablo game. Seeing as Jez is the expert in ABK games, do I need to play the previous Diablo game before playing Diablo 4? Jez, is it a requirement to play the other ones, or can you just? If somebody's never played Diablo before, can they just jump straight into Diablo 4 and enjoy it?"
Yeah. I mean, you don't need to play the previous Diablo games to play Diablo 4. The game does a decent job of giving you context, but you will get a lot more out of it if you, at the very least, brush up on the Diablo 4 lore. The intro cutscene gives you an overview of the world and the state it's in and why it's the way it is. So no, you don't need to, but if you are planning on getting into Diablo, I would at least read up on it. I think one of my colleagues is actually writing an article which is a story summary for Diablo 4, so maybe we'll have some content for you for that in the near term. So, but yeah, you don't need to. You don't need to, man. Like, Diablo 4's story is really, really good, but the gameplay really revolves around just killing shit, frankly.
Yeah, it does. I'm gonna get this before it goes away. Dark CI, a member for 43 months, says, "Guys, hope everyone doing good. Now, do we know if the FTC will look at the Japanese monopoly positions that Sony have regarding Square Enix exclusive deals?" That's a topic we will be talking about that, obviously, when we talk about all this stuff in general, because it's all sort of fits together. What else we got here? We have Nate with the super chat that says, "What a day! Press F to pay respects to the one and only Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun, lying, crying, Jim dance moves Ryan." Ooh. you know who that is, Jez?
Yes.
Okay, who was it?
I don't know.
You don't know? It's a wrestler.
What was his name?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm asking you. Do you know what he, the super chat there refers to, that Nate's referring to there?
I honestly don't.
Never heard of Ric Flair, the Nature Boy?
Oh, Ric Flair? Yeah,
Ric Flair, limousine riding, kiss stealing, son of a gun.
Oh, yeah. Woo! Yeah, I know Ric.
Woo!
Man, that's sort of like, my brain was like, man, reaching back into the archives to find that data. Woo!
Yeah.
Man, Ric Flair's daughter was really, like, I watched modern WWE briefly, and I was like, that's Ric Flair's daughter? She's like Edge, man. She's a pretty awesome wrestler as well.
Yeah, shout out to Soul Reaper for being the newest member of the channel. Appreciate you. Enjoy all the emotes. Keyshawn Thompson, a member for 15 months, says, "What studios games do you think we're seeing this summer?" Also, happy 15. Which, by the way, I don't know, Jez, you mentioned that you're about to celebrate your 10th anniversary with your girlfriend, by the way?
Yes, next weekend is my 10th anniversary of my girlfriend. I am stunned that someone could put up with me for that long. But
hey, I put up with you for almost 6 years.
That's true.
But then again, we only have to get together one time a week.
Yeah. She has to see me every single day, and she's still stuck around. But yeah, we're going on a mini vacation next weekend. So,
but we will still be doing Xbox 2 on Friday.
Yeah, we will. It might have to be a little bit shorter than this week's show, though. I think.
Or we could start it earlier, essentially.
We could. Nah, I don't think we need to start earlier. But I'll just do the packing on Thursday and stuff like that. Should be fun.
Yeah, should be good. Let's see what else we got here. We have Austin H saying, assuming you all saw the Unreal Engine 5 show, I swear that Microsoft just let Ninja Theory be their experimental devs who figure out the details of UE5 so they can teach other Microsoft studios. I mean, it was pretty impressive tech. Pretty impressive. I hope Hellblade 2's this year. And as far as the member chat about what games we'll see this at E3, oh man, I don't know. It's too early to really tell. We don't know if Microsoft's going to go back for that whole 12-month thing. You know, I say no. I know Tim Dog also agrees with me. No more of this 12-month. I don't care what Subzetic says. I don't care that he works for Xbox. No to 12-month stuff. Absolutely. No more putting tiny tables on every single game you show in a thing. I think
it's fine, actually. As long as they say targeting the next 12 months.
They're not going to say that because they lose the whole thing.
Maybe delays. I guess, as long as they say this. See, because I think they didn't say prominently enough that their games may be delayed.
Because it ruins the moment if you say everything you see here you'll be playing in a year, but not really, maybe, because it's delays in game development. You might as well not even do it at that point. We've beaten this one to death. I don't really want to talk about it again. I don't think they should do the 12-month thing again. Jez sort of thinks they should.
I just don't mind, man. I don't mind. Well, I don't think they need to do it moving forward. I think they needed to do it then because they were getting hammered last year. Like, did you see on
because they didn't release any games last year.
Yeah, they didn't even qualify. They didn't even qualify for Metacritic's Publisher of the Year because they didn't release enough games.
You go from Metacritic Publisher of the Year in 2021 to the next year not even being ranked because you didn't actually release enough games to chart. I mean,
it's crazy, man.
And shout out to PlayStation. They were Metacritic Publisher of the Year. They had an incredible year.
Yes, they did.
But perhaps one of their best years publishing their games, rivaling with 2018. I mean, I really enjoyed God of War. So, you got to tip your hat to them. They
make good games, man.
They're very good at what they do, Oh,
yeah.
So, but yeah, it is. Hey,
and they're all coming to PC.
Yay! Could Xbox be Metacritic Publisher of the Year for 2023, though, with all these games coming out? You never know.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Like, will they count Bethesda stuff, or is Bethesda still limited integration? Like, what does that mean?
I think Bethesda still they still separate Bethesda in those listings, and Activision Blizzard will probably still be separate as well. So.
I think they will keep them separate. I don't know.
Crying Jim Ryan in the chat says, Jez is proof that a 10-year commitment means nothing. Thank you for agreeing with me, Jez.
Wow. Oh dear. That's harsh.
That's okay. What else we got here? We have Greg who says, Jez, do you think Microsoft will push for a console version of World of Warcraft, whether MMO or single player RPG?
What? Can you repeat that?
Do you think Microsoft will push for a console version of World of Warcraft, whether it's the MMO or a single-player RPG?
I think Warcraft is one of Blizzard's perhaps underutilized franchises. But the thing is, World of Warcraft is so damn big. It needs so many developers to keep people subscribed, like the content delivery and all that kind of stuff. That... you basically you couldn't take any devs off World of Warcraft to make a Warcraft spin-off, right? So you need to spin up a new team for it. or hand it off to the coalition or something like that,
or hire a third party to do it,
or commission like CD Projekt Red to do or something like that.
Ooh.
But it's kind of like there's so much potential they could do. We talk about it all the time. Like they could do a Warcraft single player game. They could do StarCraft 3. They could do StarCraft shooter. They could bring back Heroes of Storm. The bottleneck is bodies. They don't have enough people to do all this stuff. All the dev teams at ABK. It's not like they're sitting around doing nothing. They've all got loads of service games of their own to maintain. So while I think Warcraft on Xbox is, it's a far higher possibility than it's ever been before, I still think like the jury's gonna be out. Because there's a lot of things about Warcraft that potentially don't work on console. The game would have to be significantly refactored, rebalanced, and also like the whole modding scene. Like Warcraft is a game dominated by mods, and you can't really run mods on Xbox in the same way. So a lot would have to change to make Warcraft happen on Xbox. So don't hold your breath, is what I'm saying about that one. Just play it on PC though. You can run Warcraft on a potato, for God's sake. You can run Warcraft on the lowest end gaming PC that you can get for like one of those low end gaming laptops. Doesn't have a dedicated GPU. That'll still run Warcraft fine at like 1080p 30 frames. It's not an intensive game. Oh, we missed Soul Reaper's super chat, man.
I mean,
did we?
No, it's still to come. It's still to come.
Soul Reaper, you need to wait a bit, man. We're catching up.
There's still a bunch here we need to go through. So yes, it's still to come. I have the entire list here.
Yeah.
YouTube actually has a thing here.
Yeah,
Shout
guys.
out to Sean.
Yeah, don't double up your super chats if you think we missed it. We are getting to them. It's just there's a lot.
I have the entire list. Shout out to Sean, who was live earlier with Dirk Riggedy today, making ponies cry, as he says. He says, shout out to you guys for being one of the real ones. Rand, talk that shit, playa. We'll definitely, have some words to say when we get further into the show about the Redfall situation. Because, whoo, man, I don't know, man. Like, the idea of, like, exclusives are counter to what gaming's all about. Like, I don't know how many people I saw post that. Phil Spencer hates exclusives. And I'm like, do any of you actually realize where that quote even comes from? Everybody uses it to be like, oh, Xbox made Starfield exclusive, but Phil hates exclusives. He said this. It's counter to what gaming's about. And it's like, am I the only one that remembers the context of that quote, where it was in a Christopher Dring article from July of 2020, comparing and contrasting Microsoft's cross-gen approach with Sony's we believe in generations and we want to give PlayStation fans something new. The idea of like holding back the Series X because there was going to be a Series S, right? This whole article talking about that, and Phil was just like essentially saying, this is our strategy. We believe in this strategy. We think it's the best one. We think it's accessible. Locking a game away to a console just because you want someone to buy it the day you launch it, like Phil got soapbox. He wasn't talking about the fact that Hellblade 2 is going to be on an Xbox exclusive. And Xbox doesn't even do exclusives. Everything's on PC. It's not like you have to buy an Xbox to play any of these games. You can literally play it on the PC, which everybody assured me they had a beastly PC with the 4090. Am I mistaken? I don't know how many people I saw saying Xbox Series X is useless. I have a PC. Well, then play the game on your PC. You already have the means to play the game. And not even that, if you don't have a PC that's good enough to run it, if you don't have an Xbox or don't have the money to spend it, you can buy it on the Series S. That's really cheap. You can probably get one for $250 now. And even still, maybe in the future, you don't even need a console. You can play it on your mobile phone if you want. You could play it on your TV. Hell, you could buy it on Steam and then stream it to your TV with GeForce using a 4090. Like, there's so many avenues to be able to play Xbox games. It's sort of mind-blowing. And I just thought it was absolutely hysterical, sad, pathetic, but also funny that this quote consistently gets brought up every single time Xbox does something with an exclusive. Oh, Phil said this. He's such a liar. It's like, yo, do you not remember any of this stuff? I mean, I have a great memory. As Jez always says, like, my memory is great about stuff. It's like, I remember where this quote actually manufactured from. It's a bunch of people that try to twist words in context to get likes and tweets from the legions of brainless idiots on social media.
Yeah.
Do I need to say anything more about that? I mean, am I on the mark here? I don't know. I sort of feel like I am.
You're being a bit messy, but you're not wrong.
Whatever.
You're not wrong, baby.
I'll be as messy as I want. I'll be as messy as I want. I don't care. It's not like I'm talking smack about Sony as a company or their incredible games. I've never done that. I never will. I'm just taking issue with the fact of some of these absolutely, like, I don't even want to use the word I was thinking of. Just idiots that I see. Not only are they idiots, but they're so comfortable in the fact that they're right as well. That's the other thing that gets me. They think they're correct, right? They think like they're pulling a gotcha on you somehow, when in reality, you're just proving to me how dumb you really. I can't even say the words I really want to say, but you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I caught all this, like, just covering the facts, right, and then maybe offering my opinion on them. Because one thing we do on Windows Central now, we do like a news report, and then underneath we do Windows Central's take, which is like the human context, like our opinion on the news, you know. And this is like something getting ahead of AI. Like, no one cares what an AI thinks, but maybe they'll care what I think. I don't know. And like some dudes like were like, oh my god, look at this propaganda, you know, about just me sharing my opinion, and like spinning it and taking things out of context for clicks and clout and console wars. It's really tired, man. Because ultimately, it's just like, nobody's attacking Sony here. Nobody's attacking Sony. It's always just presenting the facts. It's always presenting facts, you know. And like, if sometimes when people don't like facts, they get upset and they get angry and they lash out and they try and spin things. And the reason this is facts is the reason why this deal's going to pass. The facts are on Microsoft's side at the end of the day. You know, we're going to get into that more later, but
yeah.
Ugh,
we got
some more
to get through.
It's exhausting.
Panda Man says Gotham Knights is awesome. Thanks, Ren, for the recommendation. I really enjoyed Gotham Knights despite the fact that it's at 30 frames. I think it's better now. I think it's at a lock 30. They have updated it. Still no 60 frames, but as someone who loves the Batman Arkham Knight games, I also saw the reviews and was like, but I, bought it for myself at full price. I think it's been on sale since then, and I really enjoyed it. So what can I say? I really enjoyed Gotham Knights. We have Dante J. Moody, who says, always enjoy catching you guys live on Friday, especially after today's news. Hope your headaches have gotten better, Jez. Yes, Jez, so what was
Oh, my God.
What was with the headaches? You all right?
Okay, so I was super confused because, like, last weekend I had this weird pains in my like behind my eyes that I'd never had before in my life. And I was thinking, oh my God, it's a brain tumor. Or like, oh my God, it's blood pressure, or oh my God, my pancreas has finally died, or whatever. So I had like blood sugar checked, I was fine. Did blood pressure, I was fine. And then it was like, well, what could it possibly be? And then I put my glasses on and I went outside for the first time in like weeks. And my eyes stopped hurting. And I was like, oh, it's eye strain. And like, I realized that probably between Saturday and Sunday, I played Diablo for like 14 hours straight without a break, and I didn't ever look away from my TV, and I didn't wear my glasses while playing. So I guess basically it's just getting too old for this shit, you know. So I took a break, wore my glasses, and now my head's fine. I just need to wear my glasses more when I'm at the PC, I guess.
Yeah, sounds like you do. We don't need you getting headaches all the time.
No,
guys.
I need one of those. I need one of those Gunnar glasses that all the pro streamers wear.
Well, maybe we can get a sponsorship for the show. You should reach out to them.
Who make those glasses?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
No idea who makes them. Flash in the super chat says, "Bring back True Crime." I'd like to see it come back. Agent Shadow Wolf says, "With the 10-year deal Microsoft have been given out, can Microsoft market Call of Duty on Game Pass with the Series X, or make COD Series X bundles, or not due to a clause?" Well, we don't know the marketing deal. We don't know the arrangements. We don't know that sort of stuff. I would imagine that Microsoft, whenever that initial Sony marketing deal is over, that they will be the ones running the commercials. They will be the ones promoting Xbox. And yeah, I could definitely imagine Call of Duty Xbox bundles, especially for the Series S. Well, I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. Some people might want to switch. I mean, you do it for both. Call of Duty bundles for the Series S, Call of Duty bundles for the Series X, maybe even Call of Duty bundles for the Series XL. Huh? Because I don't know if we talked about it last week, Jez. The FTC, they're like, tell us everything about your next-gen consoles. And even at GDC, I don't know if you saw Stephen Totillo's tweet, where Xbox had all the consoles on the wall with the years, and the Series X that said 2020, and then right next to it, it had an empty case with a question mark above it. Did you see that?
I did see that. They're kind of like hinting that, there's more hardware on the way. And
yes, but is the hardware soon? Would you already be hinting at next generation 5 years from now, or is that more of a hint of about maybe a Slim or a next gen console that might be a year or two away? Huh?
I don't think that's necessarily a hint of anything in particular. I think it's just what Microsoft does. Like, if you go to the Microsoft Theater in LA, they've got, like, these plaques on the floor, like these Hollywood stars, which show, like, what the milestones were. And there's always the next one, which has a question mark on it, kind of thing. But I think they're just saying, like, yeah, we're not done, That being said, we do know the next Xbox is coming. But is it going to be a mid-gen? Is it going to be a cloud console? Is it going to be something else entirely? An Xbox...
Yes, you need to find out. You, Brad Sams, one of the Toms, whether Tom Warren or Tom Henderson, the Grubster, who just had his birthday. Happy birthday, Jeff.
Oh, Jeff had his birthday?
Yeah, it was like a couple days ago. Yeah, I saw it.
How old is he
the
now?
Grubster turning like 25 or something.
25 years young, man.
No, I think he's like 40 or something.
No. He does not look 25. No offense. Oh, man. He's very beautiful, though.
Antonio says there's no need for updated hardware. I'll take it. I'll take it all day. I play Xbox every day almost. I'll take upgraded hardware. I'll definitely pay for it. I'm not counting on the fact I would get it for free for review. I mean, I personally would want it, but that's just me. But anyways, we talked a little bit about that last week. We won't really talk about it again unless, someone comes out with more info. But
yeah.
What else?
It's hard. Like, Microsoft's worked very hard to shut down leaks over the last few years. I swear, like, all during last gen, it was super easy to get technical leaks from Microsoft. So they didn't really put many or any precautions in place. Like, you could just pull information straight off an Xbox console in dev mode. Like, seriously, there was no encryption, there was nothing. But nowadays, they're a lot more careful with it these days. So, which is a good thing at the end of the day. Like, you want your console to have, like, good security, but also, like, those surprises being preserved is, cool thing. Not good for me, less traffic for me, but the Xbox fan in me, I'd rather be surprised than have some asshole blogger like me leak it.
Yeah, like when you leaked the Xbox Developer Direct 2 days before Microsoft announced.
Well, that was that was their fault in a way.
That was that was their fault.
You're
blaming them.
Kind of. Yeah, I am blaming them. Kind of. Oh, well, I'll tell that story one day. Maybe that's one for the Xbox 2 Ultimate. I don't know.
Yeah, God's Hitman says, so when will the ABK games be on Game Pass? Well, I mean, I gave a little speculation about the deal closing, and then maybe they add them the day of the showcase, or maybe they just add them when the deal closes in general. How close was it for the Bethesda thing? It was like pretty. Is like as many as they could add happened right away, right, Jez? If I remember correctly. Like, the deal closed, they had the Bethesda roundtable, and there was a bunch of games that were put on Game Pass that day.
Yeah, so, I think so. I think, like, I think the situation there might be a little bit different. I think like they'd probably done more preparation for that, and they probably haven't done. I imagine that they're probably not going headfirst into preparation for ABK because there's still so much regulatory stuff to clear, and also like there's a lot, there's a lot of stuff with there's a lot of moving parts with regards to ABK. But I do think like some of the low-hanging fruit will probably get there more quickly. I can see Diablo 3 getting there, to build on that Diablo 4 hype, and Diablo 2 maybe as well, Diablo 2 Resurrected. But some of that other stuff that's probably going to be subject to more evaluation and maybe even technical things they got to work through. It's yeah, I don't think it's a trivial task. We'll have to wait and see.
Let's see what else we got here. The one and only conspiracy master himself, Everborn Saga, with Sega Next, #Home of Sonic. It's interesting he says that because if the deal goes through, which I think it will, everybody's going to be looking at who's next, what's next for Xbox.
Oh, come on. There's no next.
No, but the thing is, Phil and Satya have talked about it, though. They've literally mentioned it in interviews. Satya's talked. What do you mean there's no next? What do you mean?
That's it. They don't need any more now, surely.
Oh, bro. You always need more. More. Give me more.
Dude, regulators are they'll start freaking out, man, if Microsoft starts buying more, bro.
Well, but I'm not saying they go buy more, like, all the publishers in the world. I'm saying both Phil and Satya have talked about Japan repeatedly. Why not? Why not Sega? Why not Capcom? Sega. And like before people say, wait a minute.
Bro. No. Not Sega, not Capcom. Square Enix.
No. Sony's gonna buy Square Enix. Maybe.
Wouldn't that be funny though? Wouldn't that be like shocking? I mean, we're gonna talk about the Japan thing because with that what that Senate said, there's some interesting developments there, but I do think Japan like they've got loads of US studios, they've got loads of UK studios, and I suppose European studios, and like the other major markets, and then Asia basically, Japan, South Korea, stuff like that.
John Doe says there'll not be any more, just more layoffs. You keep saying that. Layoffs are just a thing that'll happen for sure, and that's awful. But I don't know. They're constantly been saying that they ain't going to stop because their competitors aren't going to stop. My line of thinking is, if you can push through ABK with all the resistance that PlayStation was offering about how they couldn't survive without Call of Duty, right? Trying to convince the regulators that there's this new market, the high performance console market, right? That doesn't include Nintendo. If they'll do all these things to convince them and get all this pushback, Sony's already played their ace in the hole. They played all their cards. They went to bat. They basically did everything they could to block this thing. They cannot make the same arguments if 2 years later, 2 years from now, Microsoft decides to buy Sega. Because what is Sony going to say? We can't live without Yakuza? We can't live without Siggity Sonic? We can't live without whatever else Sega makes? Or we can't live without Street Fighter? No, they get laughed out of the building by everybody, right? Because those franchises aren't even comparable.
Oh, no.
The only reason this one worked was because Sony had the argument about how much money PlayStation could bring in and how people buy consoles because of that. You can't make that argument with any other franchise in gaming outside of maybe Grand Theft Auto, and they don't even release those. They leave.
Oh, I think we've lost Rand. Yeah, so guys who were watching at the start of the show, you might remember us mentioning the fact that Rand's internet is a bit spotty. And there you go. There's an example of Rand's internet being spotty. But it held up longer than expected. Hopefully he'll be back in a little moment. But, just to cap off what Rand was saying about buying up a Japanese publisher, I think, like, I agree with Rand. I think it's going to be harder for regulators to prevent that, but what we're going to talk about earlier is this big trade deal that America and Japan are trying to work through. And one of the things the senators brought up in the trade hearing was Sony's market share, And it's crazy because they are using Sony's own arguments, this whole high-end console market audience metric that the FTC just magically invented out of thin air. Microsoft's using that in their regulatory narrative in Japan, and you've got, the US trade representative for Japan saying stuff like, we're going to investigate Sony's 98% market share, That whole market share exists because the way Sony framed its arguments to the FTC, To say Sony overplayed its hand is probably an understatement. But, yeah, it's going to be weird to see the way all this goes. There's so many implications here. The whole geopolitical landscape with regards to nerves about what's going on with China and stuff. America blocking Chinese companies from working in the US, and Western countries like America and European Union and the UK wanting to work more closely with South Korea and Japan to improve the security environment there. There's bigger things at stake, globally than, video game regulatory concerns. But, nobody wants to see Sony buried at the end of the day. Nobody wants to see that. You don't want to see a world where Microsoft controls the entire gaming industry. Nobody wants to see that. And if you do want to see that, you are short-sighted. Because if Microsoft controlled everything, then they would start making life crappier for consumers. Because at the end of the day, they are only beholden to their shareholders. That's their job. Their job is to deliver return for shareholders, And if they don't have competition's the thing that keeps a corporation honest. So nobody wants to see Sony get crushed by Microsoft. That being said, it would be healthier if Microsoft did have a bigger presence in Japan. But it would be also healthier if Sony looked to the future and started investing more in cloud and mobile, because that's where all this shit is going. Welcome back, Rand.
Yeah, that one actually went on longer than before. But hey, it's a good thing we have you hosting it today, huh?
Yes, indeed.
The stream would have been over.
The stream would have been over.
I don't know how much. I mean, I was kind of ranting. I don't know how much you guys actually heard. I apologize.
We heard lots. I heard lots.
Something's going on with my internet, because it seems like at certain points it just drops and then comes back after a minute later. So I apologize.
Yeah.
But at least you have Jez here.
Yeah.
Keep you guys company.
So I just basically, what I did was I capped off what you were saying about, Xbox buying a studio in Japan, expanding out there, and, the geopolitical realities across the world means it's,
in my mind, if you could push through ABK, you can push through anybody else except for EA and Take-Two. Nobody else would be an issue. The question is, do they, would you want anybody else?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I've already seen it happening on Twitter, where the discussion is based around what's next, or what's Sony going to do, or is Tencent going to buy these people, or is Amazon going to buy these people? I've already seen that talk, because it's almost like, essentially that the deal's done and it's already decided. And I only mentioned Japan and Sega and Capcom because Satya talked about that, Phil's talked about that, and the U.S. senators talked about that. So I mean, maybe, but yeah.
Wow,
we'll see.
Yeah, it's all fun and games. EA's share price shot up today as well, 4% in the past week, rose quickly. It's weird because all the other publishers, all the other video game publishers, the big ones, they're all up today in the shares. Even Take-Two's up 1.4%. I guess that's because of this ruling. It sounds like regulators potentially are friendlier to the idea of consolidation. So I suppose a lot of investors are now looking to who will be next? Would it be EA? Would it be Take-Two? Would it is Tencent, Amazon, whatever, going to start getting involved in this? because, you know, Amazon Luna just expanded out to the UK and the EU and all that kind of stuff. I think Sony's like, you know, being completely real. Like, you know, this is not, honestly, you know, this is me saying like Sony really needs to look at cloud. They really, really need to suck it up and accept that the industry's changing. Otherwise, they're going to be left behind, and they're going to be doing their consumers. They're going to be doing their consumers wrong. What? Why not?
People are gonna say that you're about to say Sony's done for, bro. Don't say.
I ain't saying they're done for, but I'm saying like if they don't accept that the landscape's changing, they're going to be leaving money on the table, essentially. You know, and Microsoft is literally there and ready to help Sony build a gaming cloud, you know, and bring PlayStation games straight to Samsung TVs and LG. Hell, they could make it a Sony TV exclusive to boost their own TVs, because Sony makes awesome TVs. They could make it exclusive to Sony Xperia, you know, and investing more in service games and stuff like that, you know. But that's competition. That's why competition is good, because hopefully it will lead to better stuff for Sony players as well, you know. But I do think like as Xbox consumers and gamers, we need to keep an eye on what Microsoft's doing, because if Microsoft does start moving in a direction that does impact competition and does try and foreclose Sony, I think that'd be bad. But there's no evidence that it's going to happen, you know.
Well, that's what even the CMA said. Even if they did try to do it, it wouldn't matter because they would lose money, so they're not going to. Highlander member for 7 months says, "How about Microsoft acquires Embracer Group? Would that be possible?" Probably. Nah, I don't think they would want them.
No, I don't
personally.
Think so. I don't think so.
No. We have one here from Soul Reaper. I really want Starfield to be great, but I don't have faith in it running well. I do prefer my Xbox over PlayStation since 360 gen, but when it comes to first party, excluding Gears and Forza, I just don't have high hopes anymore. Hey, you know what? You're right to have those feelings. You know, it's kind of basically you're saying it's time to shut up and prove it to me.
Yeah.
Right? So I get what you're saying. The Starfield thing, running well. You know, my hope is that one of the reasons for the delay was to get the game running as best as it can and potentially adding a performance mode on Xbox Series X. That's my hope. Will that happen? I don't know. See, now I'm paranoid when I don't hear your voice that I'm like dropped on Discord or something.
Nah, you see, like this is the thing. I've got the first time ever since starting the podcast, I've actually got a noise gate now. So like you shouldn't be hearing me like, you know, breathe and type and click and stuff like that anymore. So like when I'm not talking, it should be dead silent.
It is.
So don't freak out, Rand. I'm still here.
Yeah. Now. We have one here from Iuno who says, Undead Labs had an amazing stream earlier this week showcasing the massive update coming to State of Decay 2 in May. Beyond excited for State of Decay 3, which how much State of Decay 2 has improved over the years. Hope State of Decay blows up.
Yeah,
Jez you're very positive about State of Decay 3, right?
I like the vision of State of Decay is like my perfect game. I love the idea of a true zombie survival game that is PvE focused and doesn't bother with PvP stuff. Because there's some, you know, like DayZ and stuff like that. I'm too old for that kind of you know, nerve-wracking dynamic PvP experiences. This is why I don't like Sea of Thieves, right? I just want to chill and kill some zombies, but also have like survival elements as well. I want to have my little farm, I want to have my little base, you know, and some great RTSs like that. Like I love They Are Billions, for example, which is a great RTS on PC. Oh, it's on Xbox as well. It's a great RTS on Xbox where you basically like build a base and defend it from infinite waves of zombies. I love that shit. And State of Decay is kind of like that vision. But State of Decay 2 was always like, the issue with it was tech, you know. You had the tethering stuff, which made co-op really lame. You had, you know, when it launched, it was very janky. It was, you know, it was kind of disappointing, you know, to me as a fan. I was expecting like the leap from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2 in terms of quality. And it was kind of like basically more of the same. It even had the same zombie types, you know. which I was kind of disappointed in. But man, Undead Labs has absolutely gone above and beyond to update State of Decay 2. Like, it's a completely different game to what it was. There's so many more features now. There's so much more stuff to do. The world's so much more alive and dynamic and stuff. But it's still like, it's still got those sort of the technical gap, and I suppose the visuals and stuff is still there. But hopefully that's what they're going to solve with State of Decay 3, And
yeah. Well, so we have an interesting question here from Dead Planet in the chat. He says Tim Dog literally just said on Twitter he doesn't think Xbox will make any ABK games exclusive. What is Tim smoking today?
I
love me some Tim, and I know what you're going to say, and I'm going to disagree with you on this.
Oh, go on then.
I think most of the games ABK produces in the future, outside of Call of Duty, will be exclusive.
Bro, no way.
Most. I said most. Yes, 100%.
No way.
Because there's no reason to put them on other platforms. What PlayStation wasn't fighting for the Activision Blizzard catalog. They were literally fighting for only Call of Duty, which both the CMA and the EC have said, no, there's no theories of harm anymore regarding the console thing. Like, it could literally just be, hey, Call of Duty's everywhere forever, but then anything else that comes from ABK is exclusive to Xbox or on platforms where Game Pass exists and they tie it into the Bethesda thing.
No chance.
No chance, huh?
I can't see, like, if they did an Overwatch, well, I suppose Overwatch 2 and Overwatch 3, they're basically just going to be updates of the Overwatch 1.
Exactly. Yeah, there won't be an Overwatch 3. Yeah.
Diablo 5 is probably going to come out in 15 years or something. So I think we can forget about Diablo 5 for now. But Blizzard survival game, I suppose I could see going exclusive.
I could easily see that exclusive. There's no platforms announced for it. There's no way anybody could say you're taking it away from a developer or away from a player base.
The game's not even announced. So, like, the Blizzard survivor game, I could see maybe going exclusive, but...
Well, here's the thing. Here's the other thing, right?
Starcraft?
Everybody was talking about concessions.
Right.
Concessions about things Xbox would have to make, right? And if you guys recall, I troll the Xbox era Discord, as OBM knows, where I'm like, this deal's getting blocked, bro, right? I'm always playing both sides. But you might remember this, Jez. I told you live on this show when all this stuff started, especially when the CMA, remember when the CMA originally put out their findings and it was basically so Sony slanted, we were like, what is this? I told you then, my prediction was not only would they pass it, but they would pass it with zero concessions. Because people talk about concessions like Xbox is going to have to do this, provide PlayStation this. Xbox is going to have to make a concession that the Bethesda games would also come to PlayStation. Xbox is going to have to make a concession that all the Activision Blizzard games in the future would have to go to... Like, people were coming up with all these ridiculous things about the concessions that Xbox was going to have to make. And I said, then, zero concessions. This will pass. Once all the facts are looked into, despite what wannabe Twitter lawyers and wannabe fake economic analysts say on social media, right? The ones that pretend that they're so smarter than everybody, but clearly aren't. That when all the information was looked into, they come to the same conclusion that Brazil came to, which was like, yeah, there's nothing here. What's the big deal, right? So in my mind, especially with this whole thing, like, Xbox doesn't have to sign a thing with PlayStation anymore. They will, because they love being the good guy in all this, bringing more games to more people. So they'll sign the deal with PlayStation. But they're not going to be expected to or have made any promises, behavioral concessions, of having the other games in ABK's library to be multi-platform. It'll probably be a case-by-case basis, exactly what they said with Bethesda. So maybe the case-by-case basis is, hey, that survival game that Blizzard is putting out, maybe that's beneficial to be everywhere, right? But there's definitely going to be exclusives. So I disagree with Tim, even though I love him, and I disagree with you, but there definitely will 100% be exclusives, and I think it'll be the vast majority of games that they put out in the future. Call of Duty will forever basically be everywhere. Regardless, I know a lot of people look at the 10-year deal and be like, well, what if they don't renew it and they just make it? Not going to happen. Too much money on the line. It'll be Minecrafted. but that's how I see it, at least.
Well,
and
I guess we'll wait and see, man. I'm kind of in the Kumbaya camp at the moment, bro.
I know, but I know you were the one out there preaching the day of the acquisition that Call of Duty would not be exclusive, that Call of Duty would be multi-platform forever, and the chat hated you for it. And people on Twitter and Xbox fans hated you for it. I remember that, because I was like, well, hate. I mean, they didn't like what you were preaching, and you ended up being 100% correct. And even though over the course of time, I mean, there were still some people that were like, oh, I remember Special Nick saying that they're just going to say what they have to get done, and once the smoke clears from the acquisition, they'll make it exclusive. You remember there's a lot of people riding that line, that they were just going to say whatever it took, and then as soon as the deal was done, oh, guess what? Exclusive. But that's not how it's going to play out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or that's not how it's played out. Anyways, got him having fun. Hit the like button if you guys are enjoying the show. Please subscribe. Let's get a Dark Rand chant going in chat, shall we?
Dark Rand
emote.
Oh, dude, we got new emotes. I haven't even added them yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna add them during the show. Fuck
it. Bikwa Froman says, Jez, choose one of each. Charizard or Blastos?
Blastos?
Okay. I don't know.
Blastos?
That's what it's spelled. Blastos. Oh my
god. How are you so Pokemon ignorant? Man,
because I am.
It's Blastoise, Rand.
Like he says, choose
like Tortoise.
So Charizard or Blastos or Venusaur Gengar
Blastoise
or Alakazam Ninetales or Arcanian Dragonite or Tyranitar Red or Blue Pokemon or Digimon Anime or Comics, Marvel or DC, Beans or Shrimp. Which ones, Jez?
Dude, I'm still just distracted by the fact you said Blastoise. Blastoise? Blastoise?
That's how it's spelled. Blastoise.
Like tortoise.
Blastoise.
He's a turtle, man. He's a turtle. He's a tortoise, bro. Do you not know Blastoise? He's got like water cannons on his shell.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Well, I'm incredulous, bro.
Pick so we can move on.
I like Alakazam and Tyranitar and so those ones.
Okay, what Marvel or DC?
Was this a whole list of things?
Yeah, it was a whole list. Marvel or DC?
DC.
Beans or shrimp?
Oh, beans. Beans. Which I can eat again now. Yay.
Blue Pokemon or Digimon anime?
Oh, that's hard, actually. Because the Digimon anime is actually pretty good, but it's just Pokemon. It's always Pokemon, man. It's always.
Yeah. Okay. Soul Reaper says, "Miss my super." Miss my super. Just want to know if either of you guys feel the same about any other or all first parties, or I'm the only one. Well, we got to it, but you're not the only one. There's definitely been conversations about Xbox's quality, about the games they're making, and people still have, that question in their mind. There are a lot of people that believe Xbox has a management problem. They don't really know what they're doing. It's one of the reasons why the games are taking forever. So you're definitely not alone in that.
Blastoise.
Gaming Nerd Austria says, Jez, any news on the Series S toaster? We need that.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know if that was just a Photoshop or a concept or something, but I haven't heard anything about it since. Or some third-party thing. I don't know. I do want it, though. I would buy that. I would buy the hell out of that. Series S toaster? Hell yes. Bring me that toaster, baby. Do you want a Series S toaster, Rand? No?
No, I have no interest in a Series S toaster. Brett Bingham says, Crytek and GSC Game World need to be the next buys. See, people are already talking about acquisitions, bro. It's already happening because people feel the ABK one's done. So what is next? All right, what's Sony going to do in response? I mean, you already know that one guy's out there being like, Take-Two! Sony's going to buy Take-Two easily.
Take-Two?
Or, yeah, Take-Two. They're gonna eat them down, swallow them whole.
Eat them down. I mean, dude, can Sony even? Sony would have to raise capital for that, right?
Yes, they'd probably have to take a loan, do some other things. Yes,
I think Sony could do it, man. Sony could get a loan for that, and screw it. Why not? Let them buy it. I want them to buy. I really want to buy Square Enix. I said that last week. I think Square Enix would benefit from changing leadership, being part of a platform, and then hell yeah, bring on consolidation for the win. Let Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft own everyone. Screw it.
People are going to be upset about that. Nomad says, now the deal is likely done. Do you think Microsoft would say the Xbox One gen was worth it because it put them in a low enough position to get ABK? I mean, I don't know if it was worth it. I think it's more that, Phil Spencer worked his magic to convince Satya that Xbox was worth investing everything in and making it a cornerstone of the company. I don't think that happens without Phil. Probably also doesn't happen without that Minecraft deal, right?
It's all Phil and Minecraft, and I think Satya deserves some credit, right? Because Satya is all about cloud at the end of the day. Cloud. That's all Satya cares about is cloud. And one of the biggest industries for gaming, for cloud, is gaming. You can't run online games without cloud. You can't run service games without live ops. It makes complete sense for Satya Nadella as well. So, while, Phil clearly probably expressed the business case for a cloud-based future for gaming at Microsoft, it's also completely within Satya's vision for what Microsoft is. So, thank God. Thank God. Like, it was for years, Xbox was part of the Windows team, man.
I know.
Under the Windows team, seen as like a consumer product, which
under
is a very
Terry Myerson,
terrible,
just strangling the budget from the division.
Yeah.
Xbox wasn't its own thing. Even the marketing was completely separate too. Remember?
Yeah. Like there's still structural issues, but they're being gradually fixed. Microsoft's a big beast and hard to turn around, and things are so much better than they were. It's like
we got. Yeah, they are so much better. We got KS Mind member for 24 months saying that Hellblade trailer looks amazing. Sony fans are going to cry since exclusive. I mean, they've been complaining a lot on social media this week. Let's see what else we got here. We have Microsoft lobbying and Senate to complain about Sony Japan market share, laying the groundwork for a big Japanese Asian acquisition approved by the Asian regulator. You never know. Maybe that's got something to do with it. I remember I sent you an article where Satya basically said, hey, maybe somebody should look into that, remember? We'll talk about that when we get to that topic. Nick Reynolds says, hey, guys, after the deal closes, how do you feel about Xbox reviving the Gun IP, their own take on Red Dead? I mean, I thought Gun was all right, but I mean, I don't really think... I know Xbox sits on a lot of IP that I just don't think will ever come back. And Gun is one of those things that was only one game. I don't really think there's a lot of interest in it, so I don't see it happening. Eric Sanchez says, which y'all made it to PAX East? Would love to see y'all do some work with COG, King, and the rest of the Iron Lords group. Yeah, I would love to hang out with those guys too. Would love to go to these events. I'm thinking about going to E3 and hanging out with everybody. If not this E3, the next year's E3. But it's just, I don't know. Traveling, how much things cost and stuff like that. Sometimes it's just not really in the cards, but hopefully that changes in the future. Danny P says, prediction, Avowed will be at the TGAs instead of Xbox Game Showcase. Interesting prediction. Fly Guy says, only ABK multiplayer games multiplay. I mean, that's a possibility, Jez. Only games that they would make that are multiplayer or games as a service would be the ones that are multi-platform. That's definitely, something that potentially could be. But I also sort of feel if you're making a new game, and if the Xbox audience with Game Pass and Game Pass on PC and Steam and cloud isn't enough for you, then maybe you scoped it wrong. I don't know. You know what I mean? Because I mean, you're talking about PC and how big that market is and how big the Game Pass market is and Xbox is. But I think he's right. Multiplayer games more than likely will probably be multi-platform. That's sort of the way it's going to be. And Hargi Channy's here.
But that's all of them.
Well, not all of them.
No.
I mean,
I think like I could see them. Could they do a sequel to Sekiro that make that exclusive?
that would From Software want to do a sequel to Sekiro?
I don't know. The money's there.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, we don't know anything about the publishing rights of. Does Activision own the publishing rights for a sequel? Because we know From Software owns the IP itself.
Right.
So if they don't want to do a sequel, then there won't be a sequel. I don't know. Plus, didn't Sony just invest a bunch of money into the parent company? They own like 16% of them now.
Maybe.
I don't know if that really means anything. I don't think it really does unless they own 50%, but it's something to think about. Hargeet Channy says, Phil, I've altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. You want Call of Duty? I want Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2, and Wolverine in Game Pass. Well, I mean, yeah. Uh-oh, Special Nick's trying to call me out. Jez, our buddy from Xbox Era Podcast, a Nintendo fan that runs an Xbox podcast, an Xbox Discord, and an Xbox forum, right? He says, remember when Rand said March? I did say that I thought the deal would close in March. Hey, I'm wrong, but at least I didn't say the deal was going to close in September of 2022. I was super confident. Yeah, Nick was like, August, it'll be done by August. There's no reason. It'll be done by August. As he was thinking about GoldenEye, telling us how much he was going to play GoldenEye, how many times he was going to beat it, and how many times he's beaten it since GoldenEye's been out. A big fat 0. Hasn't beaten it a single time. He's been too busy playing a game where you drive around a car, knocking a soccer ball into a net.
Are you suggesting that old Nick plays his Rocket League?
I mean, he self-admitted that's all he cares about. He literally told me that if Switch 2 comes out and it's really powerful and Fortnite and Rocket League are on it, then he probably never play Xbox again.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow. Are you saying Nick hates Xbox?
Bro, I mean, I think it's pretty apparent. Ask him about all the Xbox exclusive Nick loves. He'll tell you none of them.
Well, dude, I'm the same way, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I
love Gears. I love Age of Empires, but I play that on PC. You know, I don't play Age of Empires on my Xbox. Even though the Xbox control's very good, it ain't gonna beat a mouse. Yeah. State of Decay, I guess. Thank God they got Bethesda though. For me.
Yeah.
Doom, Bethesda. Fallout. A lot of those classic Xbox franchises that you love and that people seem to love. I just don't. Like Halo, don't care. Perfect Dark, don't care. You know, I never even played Perfect Dark until recently. You know. I missed all that stuff for some reason. You know why I missed it? Warcraft.
Why? Yeah, Warcraft. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh well.
You know, Nick doesn't even invite me and Jez to Xbox Era anymore.
No.
So
Nick, yeah.
Whatever.
He only invites Nintendo fans. Like
maybe I should just steal their producer from them, you know?
We should steal that whole website and rebrand it to Xbox Era.
I'd be like, hey, you want to actually come work for me and Jez? You'll actually get paid.
Oh man.
You
That's messy. Messy. Poor Nick.
Yeah, I love Nick and I love Xbox Era.
Yeah, Xbox Era is awesome. It's the second best Xbox outlet on the world.
What's the best Xbox outlet?
Oh, and Essential Gaming, baby.
Is Xbox Era in the top 5 Xbox podcasts out there?
Oh no, I don't know. Nick said we always say no.
He never asks. So, I mean, I literally had to turn down 4 people tomorrow. Miles asked me to be on. Gaz asked me to be on. Kay Asante asked me to be on. And I was like, I can't. I mean, I kind of want to break. Maybe next week. People always ask me to be on their shows, and I usually say yes. But yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna do Miles' podcast this weekend for the first time in a while. Miles' Xbox Chat Day's 100th episode, so that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
honestly, I want to do all the podcasts, man. I love doing Xbox Era. I love doing Iron Lords so much. I love doing, I love podcasting with Cognito and Matty Players as well, and on Defining Duke, and it's just time, man. It's just time, it's just time.
Mm-hmm. What else we got here? Dead Planet. Sony's COD competitor would need to be everywhere. I mean, I'm sure their live service games will be on PC. I don't know if they'll be on Xbox though. We'll have to wait and see. My name is Mud says every current game with an online community will remain multi-platform. Single player games and new IPs will be exclusive most likely. That's a very good possibility. Daba says, do you both think Activision will make any games apart from COD once the deal is approved? They said so, but will it be a reality?
I mean, this is the big question. Like when Phil was talking about StarCraft and Guitar Hero, and even I think he even mentioned Skylanders and stuff. It's kind of like, is this just pie in the sky dreams, or are these like actual things that they've sat down and thought about planning out? Are we actually going to get StarCraft? And you can't help but think, like, who would make this stuff? One of my theories is that maybe they will remove Call of Duty from the 2-year cycle, from the annualized cycle, and move to a 2-year cycle. So maybe they can free up one of the Call of Duty teams to work on other stuff, more games, essentially. And also, I think like that would benefit some of Microsoft's partners. I think that'd give Battlefield a chance to shine as well, which Xbox benefits from because they're partnered with EA and they sell Battlefield as well. And I think some of those things are the kind of things Microsoft will be looking to do, is reassure their publisher partners that they're not just going to steamroll them with ABK stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if Call of Duty pulls back to a 2-year cycle and we see maybe some of those studios branch off into other stuff. Like Thanaros says in the chat, Activision doesn't need 7 teams working on COD. I agree. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm hopeful, but one thing for certain is that if things had stayed the way they are, that would never have happened. That would never have happened if things had stayed there. So.
Kid Smooth, the best spots in here says, "How about Planet Xbox with Kid Smooth?" I would love to, dude. I love podcasting with you, Smooth. Not necessarily tomorrow, but whenever you're down, just let me know. I'm usually free. Tomorrow I'm busy, which is why I turned everybody down. But yeah, let me know, and I definitely will come on Planet Xbox, of course. What else we got here, Jez? Let's see. Hargeet says Microsoft needs to buy Square Enix. Somebody probably needs to buy Square Enix. Gaming Nerd Austria says, how big are the chances of a StarCraft 3? I think 99% likely. Wouldn't you agree, Jez?
Yeah, I'm pretty much, well up there, sort of 75, 80% at this point.
Yeah, I think StarCraft 3 is a go. I
think we could see like Relic or someone partner with Microsoft on it. But yeah.
Supernova says, from Jimbo's wonderful wisdom, he made Microsoft sign contracts for most companies and forgot Sony. Hashtag Jim Lion shake dance moves crying Ryan.
That is a funny point though. Like as a result of the narrative that Jim Ryan created, he ended up giving loads of his competitors Call of Duty. Mm-hmm. Like, would that have happened if he hadn't, gone so hard about making Call of Duty such a big deal?
Maybe it doesn't happen with Nintendo, but then again, right from the very beginning, Microsoft did say they wanted to bring it to Nintendo. So I think they were going to regardless. I think that. So no, I think.
I mean, I'm talking more about the cloud stuff. Some of these smaller cloud companies who weren't even on the map. Like, I never heard of Boosteroid. Would they be getting Call of Duty if Call of Duty hadn't become the focal point of this deal? I don't know. Maybe Microsoft preemptively thought that. I don't know.
It's not that Call of Duty is the center point of this deal. It's now cloud is the center point of their concerns.
Yes.
And Microsoft's like, all right, well, we'll, in condition if the deal gets approved, you can have Call of Duty, you can have the Activision games, and a cherry on top, you can have the Bethesda games and Xbox games, right? Because it is like bring your own games. Like, people still have to buy them on Steam to be able to stream them via GeForce, right? As and Boosteroid. So you still have to own those games. Maybe they don't make that deal if the regulators are like, we're not concerned about cloud. It's possible. But because there were, like Nvidia was very concerned about that, and Microsoft's like, all right, no, not a problem, because we just want cloud gaming to be a thing. We want cloud gaming to be a vibrant industry 5, 10, 15 years from now. And it really didn't make so them saying, hey, we're worried about this, and well, we'll let everybody have it because we just want cloud gaming to be a thing that actually is a vibrant market where essentially, yeah, we would lead the market in the future because there are games, so.
See, this shows the fundamental difference between Microsoft's thinking and other companies' thinking. Like the fact that in the VR industry, for example, you're seeing these. It's such a niche thing, and you already have this absurd fragmentation. You have a Meta being closed platform as hell, making it really hard, unnecessarily hard to use their headsets on other platforms, and you can do it, but it's annoying to get it running. And then you've got like Valve holding Half-Life Alyx hostage on Steam. Half-Life Alyx should be on PlayStation VR. It's absurd that it isn't. It's absolutely absurd. And that hurts Steam VR because, they are limiting the interest and potential in VR by keeping that stuff closed, And then Sony too. Sony should be supporting other platforms with its VR IP to make VR a thing. VR won't be a thing if I have to buy into 3 different platforms just to get a couple of games. VR is not going to be a thing,
You bring up VR. Didn't you just write an article about something about PSVR 2 and like Minecraft and stuff?
Yeah, so again, this was a fun little article that I wrote this week. So one of the hilarious things in the CMA's documentation this week, or was it last week? I can't remember. I got no concept of time anymore. But they redacted a huge section of remedies that Sony wanted in exchange for this deal going through. They redacted everything, but they didn't redact the footnote. And one of the footnotes was a link to PSVR 2, which, got me thinking, if Sony's remedies include PSVR 2, that kind of overlapped with a very old industry rumor that I heard. That in exchange for allowing Call of Duty to go cross-platform and to let, Xbox consoles connect with PlayStation, Sony wanted the concession from Microsoft of putting Minecraft on PSVR. That's an old industry rumor I heard that is completely unverified. I was never able to verify that. Highly doubt Microsoft would even comment or confirm that. But that's one thing I heard, So I was thinking maybe one of Sony's remedies is making sure that some of these, any of these franchises which end up on VR would be, available on PSVR. So Sony can grow its unique selling point, from a hardware perspective. And I think that's reasonable, I think it's reasonable that, Microsoft would put Minecraft on PSVR, but I don't really know what other VR games Microsoft even has. I suppose Doom VFR, virtual fucking reality is what they call it. Doom VFR is vomit-inducingly chaotic. You ever played VR games,
No.
Rand?
No, I have not.
I am someone.
A couple, yeah.
I don't know if Doom VR is available on PSVR already, or PSVR 2, or Skyrim VR, or whatever. But man, a lot of these games, they just make me feel so sick. Like when the games are designed for VR, I can just about tolerate it. Like Beat Saber or Pistol Whip, really great VR games. But when they're not designed for VR and they're just kind of shoehorned into VR, like Minecraft and Doom, it just makes me feel so sick. I have never felt that motion sickness, such absurd motion sickness in my life that I did playing Minecraft VR. Awful experience. So if that Sony's concession is like vomit-inducing Bethesda and Minecraft hack job VR games, fine.
They don't get any concessions now, so
yeah, I just think, I still think maybe they should. To be honest,
no.
I know that's controversial, but I think Microsoft should support PlayStation. I think they should.
Yeah, I can't wait to have the Xbox 2+1 discussion with Foss Patents on Monday, so you can explain all the intricacies of this deal.
Yeah,
that's gonna be real good. Good choice, because we were like, who do we want? And then Jez was like, I asked Foss, and he's ready to go, and it's like, all right, that's cool. And then this all happens, like, all right, perfect time, right? Perfect time to have him on. Sean says Blastoise greater than Car Lizard. AMG says, Jez, there's already a perfect zombie survival game called Project Zomboid. It's PC only, and honestly, one of the few games I'd rate 10 out of 10. And CZY says, could Sony contracts for games with third parties not being released on Xbox be banned, i.e. Final Fantasy? I don't know. But you know what? Let's start with Redfall. Let's start with the beginning of the week and work our way. Because Redfall, this is... if you guys are enjoying the show, hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Let's talk about all the salt, all the tears, all the crying and begging, all the people that are just down bad. I've never seen people so upset about a game that they didn't care about to suddenly whining that it wasn't on PlayStation. I've never seen it. I've never seen people like this before, right? If you're not interested in the game, you're not interested in the game. It just proves to me what the reality is. Everybody wants Xbox exclusives.
Dude,
you know what?
You
know what, Jez?
Go on.
The reality of the situation is finally the Bethesda acquisition is about to bear fruit. Sure, we had Hi-Fi Rush come out and was amazing, but here's Redfall and Starfield, honestly, and all the others.
Dude,
right?
Dude, if you go onto Hi-Fi Rush's Twitter and look at some of the replies to that tweet, I think it really did start with Hi-Fi Rush.
I mean, yeah, because it was like a game out of nowhere that was actually really good that a lot of people are like, that should be a PlayStation game. Xbox fans won't enjoy that. So it starts with that. And then here's Redfall and Starfield, a game that everybody's calling Starfailed or Midfall or Deadfall, making fun of the previews. And the previews were mostly positive. There were some negative ones. Let me bring up Clobrel's tweet, because he kind of went over some of the specifics here. If you guys want to know more about it, you can always check out Colt Eastwood's video. He put one out on Wednesday, or Mr. Matty Plays, going over what they thought about it. They were only able to play an hour or 2 hours of it. So there's no store in the game, and there's no microtransactions, which is great. But DLC's planned for the future for more characters, which is cool. Arcane is working to make the game playable without an internet connection, which is the right thing to do. I'm happy to see that they're working towards that. A lot of the previews praise the gunplay. Quote, the minute-to-minute gunplay is phenomenal. Quote, at its core are design ideas that have enabled memorable exploration and narrative. Redfall is shaping up to be the studio's strongest shooter to date. A compelling mix of Dishonored, Borderlands, and Buffy. So there are a lot of people that were really surprised by how, good the game was. But obviously, like, not everybody was impressed. I think Giant Bomb said they still hope there was more polish to come, and PC Gamer was like, it's missing that arcane magic. So we'll see what the game's like when it releases on May 2nd. But nobody wants to talk about Redfall and what it looks like and what it plays like and what sort of missions you're going to do, because soon after the previews dropped, we had an interview from IGN France that basically said there was a version of the game for PlayStation 5 and Microsoft canceled it. And oh boy, did grown men cry, scream, wail, and be outraged. Not only grown men, but also the media. There's some people in the media that were like, what? How dare you? You're taking games away from PlayStation fans? Oh my lord, right?
I never saw this outrage for Final Fantasy 16, for Final Fantasy 7
you don't see a lot.
Remake.
No, because the reality of the situation is that PlayStation fans, and not all of them, because there are a lot of great ones, regular fans who enjoy the platform, but like the really toxic ones, the ones that are on social media sending dick pics to Sony Santa Monica developers, or taking pictures of themselves in the operating room. You know I'm talking, those ones.
Yeah.
They're the ones that have basically talked all this crap and then suddenly are now wanting to be like play their game on the PlayStation 5 even though it was a game they weren't interested in because it looked like ass. It's even gotten so bad to the point that some of them are like, exclusives are bad, huh, guys? Like, but exclusives were the reason you chose that platform in the first place. Make it make sense. Anyways, Harvey Smith says, we got bought by Microsoft, and that was a huge sea change. They said, no PlayStation 5. Now we're going to do Game Pass, Xbox, and PC. Support from Game Pass, and have to worry about one less platform, one less complexity. And Game Pass has a ton of people that can play. It can be our biggest game ever because of the 30 million Game Pass members or whatever that number is. So basically it said, not a big deal. It's actually beneficial because we don't got to worry about an extra platform. This could be our biggest game ever because everybody on Game Pass is going to be able to play it. But, you know, a lot of people saw this more as a way to attack Xbox and Phil and what they've said about Bethesda constantly. I mean, the can of worms that were opened up about the Bethesda acquisition was like, you said you didn't take games away from PlayStation fans, but Redfall had a version that, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. No shit. There was a PlayStation 5 version of Redfall. At the end of the day, Bethesda was a huge publisher that put their games everywhere. They were acquired in 2021. It wasn't like Microsoft had a hostile takeover. And I even heard one of the bidders for Bethesda that Microsoft was competing against was PlayStation. PlayStation wanted them too. They just didn't offer them enough money, right? But Bethesda chose Microsoft because they're a private company. They don't have to be like, choose the best one. They choose the one that they wanted. So they chose Microsoft. And because of that, you know, Microsoft talked about, because we went all over this during the 2020 to 2021 thing. What are they going to do with these games? Are they going to be exclusive? Are they going to be, multi-platform? And a lot of people were like, you can't take this away from PlayStation fans. You need the money that we're going to bring in. We're the best. A lot of this is a lot of the PlayStation fanboys feel that they are entitled to every single game that comes out. Every single game. And that when they don't get something, they whine like little bitches. I'm sorry. Like, and I get it because that's the sort of way it's always been. PlayStation gets pretty much everything. They get all the big deals. And like when you're on Xbox, you just expect not to get Japanese support. It's just a thing, right? Or when you're on Nintendo, and you don't get big AAA games. That's just kind of the way it is. It's what is accepted. But for them, it was like, we get everything because we're the best. And then suddenly, after Microsoft basically had spent an entire generation being the joke, the butt of every single joke from fans to media, they get to the point where like, all right, we need to change this up. We need to reboot everything, build our first-party studios into something special, stop releasing 60 Metacritic games that nobody is enjoying, so they finally do all that, even though all these people were screaming that Xbox needs to compete, and we just want Xbox to get better. And finally, Xbox is like, all right, you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to buy all these studios, deliver you content that you say you want. And we got a publisher as well that's looking to sell. We're going to get them too. It's going to provide great content for Xbox gamers and Game Pass. The thing is, it's a case-by-case basis because we can't say all the games are going to be exclusive or multi-platform because there's contractual obligations, there's legacy things we're going to... Like, I replayed the Phil convo from 2020, but it ended with, but at the end of the day, the deal was made for exclusives that are going to appear on platforms where Game Pass exists. But yet, when they see this whole thing about Arcane having to cancel a PS5 version of a game everybody knew existed because, Bethesda's a huge publisher, and they were bought out in 2021. The game was supposed to come out a year later. Of course it was planned. Shocker, spoiler, there was also a Starfield version as well. And we know that because rumors had persisted for a long time that Starfield was going to be that Sony was in talks to get timed exclusivity for Starfield. So yes, we're probably going to go through this all again in July, whenever the Starfield previews are, or when the game actually launches. Oh man, I could have played this on my PlayStation. But you've been saying it's Starfield for a long time and that Bethesda sucks now, but now you actually want it. You're so transparent in your feelings, right? So we're in this situation here where it's like everybody's saying they lied about things, but when you actually look at all the interviews, it's like, no, they didn't. I mean, even Sony admitted in their filing with the CMA that Microsoft didn't break any behavioral provision promise, right? And there was even something we'll talk about, like, where even the CMA is like, yeah, you know what? Judging from what Xbox did with Bethesda, that's not really applicable what they're going to do with Activision. So even the CMA completely agrees with Sony, because Sony was out here trying their hardest to basically put out a doomsday scenario of like, well, if you allow this to happen, the entire industry will be destroyed. And you can't trust Microsoft because look at what they did with Bethesda. They made these things exclusive. And they said they weren't going to. And it's like, but they didn't. They said they wouldn't take games away. And I'm sorry, Redfall was never announced. It was never announced that it was coming to PlayStation, so there's nothing to take away. You never had it in the first place to be able to take it away. They always meant, we're not going to take away Elder Scrolls Online. We're not going to take away any of the other Bethesda games that are on there, like Skyrim and things like that. I don't know how this morphed into, you took Redfall and Starfield away from me. Grow up. Jez, anything more to add here? Like what?
I think you covered the vast majority of it. Man, it is kind of interesting to see the double standard applied, especially from content creators that you can go back in time and you can see what they've said about other things, and like when it comes to this, they're all for multi-platforms, and when it comes to other games, they're either completely silent or whatever. You know, I was literally on this show earlier saying like I think Microsoft should support PlayStation with more multi-platforms, and everyone was in chat saying, "No, Jez, no! What are you doing?" But I'm not someone who I don't play consoles for exclusives. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, I play on Xbox originally because all my friends play on Xbox, and we've always played on Xbox. And now I'm digitally locked in because all my games are digital. So it's like, well, I started on Xbox, I might as well stick with Xbox, and now it's my career. So like, I am stuck with Xbox forever, you know. And I am happy that Sony's releasing its games on PC because they make great games and I want to be able to experience them as well. Like, I think in a perfect world, platforms will compete on features rather than exclusives, like, which is kind of the way mobile phones work, you know. There's not like exclusive apps on iOS and Android, is there? They're always on both, you know. But that's not the way it works with consoles, you know. But I know I'm not, you know, ignorant of the fact that a lot of people do play on different consoles for those exclusives, and I think that's when people trip over their own narratives, Rand. Is because they sort of, you know, they get emotional about the attachments to those exclusives and stuff like that. You know, the best exclusives are on PC anyway. You know, PC has everything. So but these
Xbox games,
yeah, and these are the same dudes who always said like, "I'll just play it on PC. Xbox has no games; they're all on PC." You know, what happened to those high-end PCs that all these people supposedly had? You know,
yeah, vanished into the ether, Jez. They're not there anymore.
Vanished into the ether. You know,
it vanished into the. And look, if Phil, like when Xbox does something wrong, if Phil was lying about this stuff, we'd be on them. We'd be on them so badly. But like, I'm well versed in Phil speak, you know. I know exactly what he's talking about when he it's like people don't really dive deep into any of the things that people like he says. It's just like they see the quote, exclusives are countered with gaming, and I get it. You know what? I get it that Xbox's PR sometimes gets in the way of things. I understand, and I felt the same way because I said it last week, I believe, about this idea of like Microsoft coming out and saying, we want more people to play our games, right? And then making Redfall and Starfield exclusive. I get like the how that sort of looks when you're saying we want more people to play Call of Duty and more people to play our games and all that stuff, but then not doing that with other stuff, right? And I think that's basically born out of this idea of Microsoft wanting to look good to everybody, wanting to be the good guy in all of this. But I mean, you go back and look at their quote from 2020. Phil basically told you this deal was done to get exclusives, and they weren't going to take anything away from PlayStation. It would be a different story if Redfall was announced for PlayStation. If Redfall was announced for PlayStation and then they made it exclusive, I'd be fully behind you guys. I'd be like, you guys have a point. They did announce that for your platform, and they pulled it. You're right. But that never happened. And Starfield was announced with no platforms either. So if that game was announced for PlayStation and they pulled it, you'd have a point. But you don't. All you really have is the distaste of Microsoft's PR of wanting to present themselves as the really great guy of look what we're doing. We just want to be above all of this. When it's really like we can't afford to make Call of Duty exclusive. We want it to be everywhere like Minecraft so it can bring in all this money. And we can afford to have Redfall and Starfield be a marketing beat for the platform. Because that's what Phil said exclusives are. They're marketing beats for the platform, right? When Redfall comes out, people are going to be interested in Xbox. When Starfield comes out, people are going to be really interested in Xbox. Buy the console. Buy Game Pass. That's what it's for. Same thing happens when God of War or Horizon comes out, right? The thing is, you all knew this to be true. You all knew exactly what he said. You all remember that shit. You all watched my video where I looped what Phil said 5 times to drive the point home.
You did that?
But you just want to act like idiots on social media. Oh yeah, because I mean he says it right there. So yes, the issue is Xbox's PR. I get it. I understand that. And I do wish they could be more forceful and just say, how it is, even though they sort of already did. But I mean, let's be honest. Nobody lied to you about anything. This is exactly played out the way everybody told you it would play out and exactly how Phil told you it would play out.
These dudes were never going to play Redfall anyway, I don't think.
Yeah. You're literally talking down about this game since it's been revealed, and now you're crying that you can't play it on your PlayStation. I don't understand. I thought it was a game you weren't going to play anyways and you weren't interested in, but now they took it away from me. Oh my god.
I don't know, man.
Come on.
It's kind of sad that like people are focusing on this instead of the gameplay and the previews and stuff like that.
But you know what? Because it's a scale-bound effect. The same thing happened over on Reset Era, right? You know which thread had the more posts? Do you think it was the thread about the previews of Redfall, or do you think it was the thread about the game being canceled on PlayStation 5? I'll wait. You decide which one you think had more pages and more replies.
Well, I was thinking this the other day because we weren't invited to the Redfall preview event. For whatever reason, and I was thinking like, well, it's kind of a shame that we're not, missed out on the traffic opportunity. But then Arcane came out and said there was a PlayStation 5 version and there was a big change with the capital C. When you translate it from French into English, it kind of paints a picture of a game that was cancelled or whatever. And I was like, well, that's news. I covered it, and I guarantee that news about, the drama that created, that his comments to IGN created, that probably got more traffic than a preview would have done. And it's just because people are just kind of hardwired to be interested in drama for some reason. I think if everything was positive about Redfall and there was no controversy whatsoever about it, it probably wouldn't be getting as much press as it is. But because there's like a lot of FOMO about it now, and there's drama, and content creators are turning it into talking points, and and all this kind of stuff. It's just funny, And I also see people like sort of calling out some really old Phil Spencer quotes where he says like exclusives aren't good for the industry and stuff like that.
I never said that. Yeah.
But yeah, like he never said that per se. He sort of alluded to the fact that it's more of like a shame that that's the way the industry has to be. He didn't say he wasn't going to do it, because at the end of the day, if your competitor's doing something that makes them more competitive, you kind of have to mirror that. You have to compete against that. And people do buy consoles for exclusives. We know this. And that's why this is creating so much controversy, because for, dude, 10 years really, Xbox has been on the back foot when it comes to compelling exclusives, it feels like. You know, we had like your Scalebounds, your Phantom Dust got cancelled, Crackdown 3 debacle, Recore, $30 game that had like AAA marketing budget. All this kind of stuff we had to deal with for the last 10 years. And now it's, like you said earlier, fruit is bearing and the spring is coming.
Well, that's the thing. It's not just one thing. It's a collection of things, right? It's Bethesda, they're about to release all these games that are pretty big. And you know what? Yeah, Bethesda's actually a really good publisher. They put out quality titles. Oh, but also Xbox Game Studios is starting to really get cooking. Did you see that Hellblade 2 demo that they showed? Oh man, looks incredible. Can't wait to see what the story is about that, right? Looks insane. Granted, it probably won't look exactly like that, but still, another reminder of Hellblade, a game that was, originally on PlayStation and PC, that's not going to be, right? And then you add all the ABK stuff in here, where Sony was going to bat and basically saying this needs to be blocked, and all the PlayStation fans believing that it was going to be blocked, that the CMA had their back. And suddenly now the CMA doesn't. So now it looks like the ABK deal is going to be done sooner rather than later. And it paints this picture of just like, oh shit, the chickens have come home to roost, essentially. Xbox might be cooking. Maybe we can't make fun of them, like we have been. And they actually are competing. They're doing exactly what we said we wanted them to do, but not in the way we wanted them to do it. Because, everybody's like, we want you to compete, build new studios. And it's like, well, you know what? Here's some publishers that want to be bought out. Let's grab them. Let's actually use what our competitive advantage. Let's use that checkbook, convincing Satya to actually write this check. So when this deal goes through, you can rest assured that Xbox's future is secured for forever, basically. Even though there was some talk that will they sell off Xbox if the ABK deal doesn't go through? Remember that whole thing? Well, maybe they'll just get rid of Xbox, as if the whole company was riding on whether or not this deal would go through, even though it basically would just accelerate their plans, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to Redfall. It's a shame that the conversation turned into PlayStation version canceled. But I love that people just expose themselves and their true feelings, because it just makes me laugh. I'm going to be playing it day one. Maybe I get a review copy. I hope so, because I love Arcane, and I can't wait to play it. Hopefully it's amazing, and hopefully it's just the start. It's like you got Starfield coming out in September. You have Forza Motorsport coming out sometime, maybe October. Diablo's about to release. And that seems amazing. And at some point, that's more than likely going to be in Game Pass. You have Crash Party that was just announced coming on June 20th. Maybe that's a day one drop now. Instead of it's like a $30 game. I think that's a mistake. That seems more fitted for a free-to-play title. Maybe that gets put into Game Pass day one.
It
might do better.
Definitely
right?
Should be.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, Hellblade 2 is on the horizon. They're starting dev diaries. They have this thing they showed off at the GDC that looked incredible. You have the E3 showcase where you're going to see a lot more announcements, a lot more stuff for Game Pass. You're going to see Starfield deep dive. Call of Duty is going to release a new game, and by that time, it will be an Xbox franchise. Maybe that's in Game Pass on day one. And then you start cycling and repeating, and it's like everything just sort of clicks together. And I think some people are starting to realize that, and they're a little bit worried. Just like Sony was a little bit threatened by all this. Don't let people tell you that they weren't. They were. Sony is very threatened by the idea of Xbox owning ABK. Very threatened. I mean, I don't begrudge Jim and Sony for trying to block it. They're doing exactly what they needed to do. But rest assured, they're threatened by that idea. Because nothing is forever. right? I mean, hell, you know what? Maybe Microsoft even owning Call of Duty. Maybe they can't manage Call of Duty. Maybe they can't even manage Activision. Maybe Call of Duty starts to decline like Halo did under 343. You don't know what the future's going to hold. Nobody could have predicted Fortnite, 8 years ago. And look at Fortnite now. It's basically the dominant game. It's basically a platform unto itself. Did you see the Unreal editor that they just released, where you can just make whatever you want, and then people who make
and then people who screwed, man.
and then people who actually make like maps and stuff for that can actually get compensated. It sort of makes Halo's Forge kind of look pale in comparison. I saw reports from people on Twitter that the Halo Forge creators are going to leave to start doing Fortnite. And you know what? They should. Because it's got better tools and there's a chance to get, compensated for your work. So you can't predict how this industry is going to move. Call of Duty may not be that important 10 years from now. Who really knows?
Dude, right? Like, people aren't talking about this Fortnite creative stuff enough. Like, it is literally the Roblox model, but better in every conceivable way. Like, Fortnite is going to eat Roblox's lunch, and then some. Like, it's like you said. Like, maybe Call of Duty is not relevant. Maybe we'll all be playing games in Fortnite creative mode, because that shit looks insane. What they're doing with it.
Yeah, maybe Call of Duty's end up being an albatross. They paid $70 billion for something that it's eventually going to be on the decline. Who knows what the future holds?
Well, dude, it doesn't matter because they got Blizzard, bro.
That is true.
I keep telling you, man, it doesn't matter about Call of Duty. Nobody cares about Call of Duty. It's all about Warcraft, Diablo, Starcraft. That's all that matters, bro. None of the rest of it matters.
I know Joe Sinister says watch Halo Forge creators continue using it. I think the only reason you would continue to use it is because you love Halo and you love that and you love building it. But anybody who's like an interest in that and doesn't actually feel that way about Halo, I'd be dumping that in a second to work on Fortnite if I had the skills. Right? At least that's what I think.
I think like if you already know and understand and enjoy using the Halo Forge, you're not going to be able to immediately leap over to Fortnite creative and instantly make the kind of stuff they're making on there. But a lot of people will be able to, And I think like it's interesting, It kind of showcases another missed opportunity with Halo Infinite. It kind of came in too late with all this stuff. Forge should have been there day one. They should have delayed, but like again, like I was just about to say they should have delayed it. But if they did delay it, they would have ended up going head to head with Fortnite, But yeah. Main Delinquent says, no way this dude thinks Fortnite is going to replace Roblox, not the same shit. Hey, come back and talk to me in a year about that.
I don't know about a year, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years.
I don't think it's going to replace Roblox, but it's definitely going to... There's going to be stuff coming out of Fortnite creative mode that take away huge portions of that audience.
Maybe the future of these type of games and stuff is, community modding like this.
Well, dude,
why Roblox is so big, Maybe that's an issue Call of Duty will face, that they can't do stuff like this, right?
Yeah, definitely, undoubtedly. User-generated content, which UGC is what they're called, is a huge business, and it's something not a lot of people talk about because it's kind of boring. But people forget that Microsoft already has one of these, and it's called Minecraft. There are literally there are businesses valued over millions of dollars, and all they do is make mods and maps for Minecraft. But you're very limited with what you can do with Minecraft. And Fortnite is basically taking that model and applying it to a much, much more powerful engine. And yeah, it'll be harder to make that stuff in Fortnite. But when you factor in AI creating assets and all the investments Unreal's doing there, the landscape's gonna look very different in 5 years. I think you're right. Maybe Call of Duty could become an albatross, but the industry's moving so fast. We're not talking about AI. We're not talking about user generated content. And one of the criticisms, Rand, that gets leveraged at Roblox is the fact that they don't pay their creators enough. They basically exploit young coders and young kids who make these games, and they're paying peanuts. Whereas we know Epic Games is very pro-developer. They're almost certainly going to offer them a better deal. So you're going to see a lot of that creative juice go over to Fortnite, probably. Unless things change. And Roblox looks like ass, But honestly, there are some like high fidelity games coming out of Roblox as well. Like
you see that Frontlines, like the Call of Duty clone, right?
Yeah,
you saw some of that, yeah.
Like Roblox is no slouch in this department either, and they're not taking it lying down because it's their entire business model revolves around this. It's interesting, because Roblox, it's not on PlayStation, is it?
No, it's not. At least not yet.
It's so strange, that Roblox is an Xbox exclusive that no one talks about. Nobody talks about it. I don't know. But I suppose we're just too old, Rand. We're boomers with your blast toes.
We are.
Blast toes.
Blast toes, yes. Blast toes.
Jesus.
So you heard what I said about the Hellblade thing, right? What did you think of the Hellblade? Well, yeah. I mean, this all is tied in together. I'm just
asking for timestamp purposes.
Oh yeah, I mean, we sort of did the whole Redfall thing to death. Maybe that comes back up at some point, but I wanted to get what you thought of that Hellblade 2 demo where they basically, the facial animations and everything. Like, well, because you're someone who kind of wasn't a fan of the first game very much. What do you think?
Dude, I don't care about. It's impressive technology, okay? It's amazing, but so is Hellblade 1. We all knew that this facial technology was going to be impressive. I just want to see the gameplay, man.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
100%.
Because I don't like. I can't get excited about games that are on rails. And if this is just going to be a big interactive cutscene with pretty graphics, and that is honestly not me detracting from the technical achievement that Ninja Theory's putting out there. They are creating art. But that's not why I play games, personally. It's not why I play them. I'll play Hellblade 2 and experience it, and I'll be like, wow, that was amazing. Like, I played Hellblade 1, and I was like, I played Hellblade 1 with headphones on, like they recommend, and I had an amazing time. But it's not why I play games. It's not why I'm passionate about games. I want to kill shit. And I want to kill a lot of shit. Diablo 4 lets me kill lots of shit. Hellblade let me kill what? Maybe 10 enemies or something. So,
yes. Hellblade 1 was very much an indie game that was trying to do big things, right?
It was a great vision of what the franchise could be. I'm nervous that they haven't shown any gameplay. They've shown cutscenes and interactive walking around and stuff. They haven't shown anyone clicking a button and things happening. That makes me nervous. It makes me nervous, bro. So
it makes you nervous because you don't like the type of game that Hellblade 1 was, right?
Yeah, it makes me nervous I'm not nervous because in the sense that it'll be a bad game. I'm just nervous in the sense that it won't be for me. I want to see gameplay, man. I just want to see gameplay. So that's my take on Hellblade. And I'm not detracting from the quality.
Let me ask you this.
Or anything like that.
What would get you excited? The gameplay wise, like what sort of gameplay do you want to see? Like what would be up Jez's alley?
God of War gameplay, man.
Oh, okay. So it's got to be God of War gameplay.
Yeah,
it's got to be like a semi-open world.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be open world. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be full blown open world. It doesn't need an upgrade system. Even if it was like Rise, like combat areas, going from place to place, killing stuff. I can't get excited about an interactive movie. I can't. I just can't do it. I'll enjoy it, but I won't get excited about it. So, yeah. But there's nothing wrong with that. It just means it's not going to be a game for me, And it's annoying because I love Heilung, the band doing the soundtrack, and stuff like that. It's exactly up my alley. I just want it to be a little bit more interactive. And people in chat are annoyed about that, But
Yeah, sometimes you
I
do
don't
annoy
care.
him. That's for sure.
I mean, I'm speaking my truth. You know, I could lie to you guys and say that I'm excited for it just because it's an Xbox exclusive, but I just ain't, man. The puzzles in
Nah,
Hellblade
because
1 were lame. The combat was lame. You know, it was a vision of a better game that didn't exist. You know,
no,
so
I
yeah,
I agree with you. I do think combat needs to be much improved. I think it will be. I would prefer not there to be those puzzles, which I think made thematic sense considering she was having those visions and hearing the voices. It just sort of felt like time wasters to a certain degree. Like, how do we extend the game? We have these combat sections. Oh, but now we have this beautiful walking stuff where story takes place and people talk to you, and then you got to find these symbols. Like, I get it, sort of made thematic sense for what she was experiencing, but she essentially, spoiler alert, kind of overcomes it at the end. And the way, like, when I watched this thing, right, when I watched this Hellblade 2 demo, it wasn't like I was super excited for how it looked. Because when I saw it, I was like, that's some impressive stuff. But I doubt it's going to look like that on Xbox Series X. Maybe it looks on that on like a 4090 or something. I was more thinking to myself, with the way the story looks like it's going to go about her being like, I can see through you now, and I will show these people, you're not, basically like, I'll destroy your gods, right? Like, it seems completely different. Like, she's in control of her faculties. She's a huge warrior now. So in my mind, there's going to be somebody that's why there won't be any sort of those visual puzzles, because it wouldn't fit the game thematically anymore. So I am watching that, and I'm getting like excited because her performance in the first game was almost essentially what made the whole game for a lot of people.
yeah,
So watching her perform that, I'm sitting there and I'm getting goosebumps because I'm thinking of what the story and how it's going to come across, and her acting in the game, and like I'm just imagining these things, and I'm just like, yes, this is why I cannot wait for this. It wasn't like the tech, because I'm not a big tech guy, and what they showed was extremely impressive. Like her just sitting there breathing after she says, "We'll destroy you," and then like it darkens and you can see her face all black but lit up by the flames that explodes in front of her. Right? If that was an E3 trailer, it would immediately have shown the release date afterwards. Like, that's kind of as I was thinking, because that's the game I want the
dude,
most.
you can't show release date without showing the gameplay,
No,
man.
no, no. I'm saying if this was an E3 trailer and the game was coming out soon, that would be a trailer where they show the gameplay and they show this like
Oh,
story
that
segment
scene, yeah.
with her talking, and then the flame spouts up at the end and you see it reflected in her eyes, and instead of moving to the Unreal thing, it basically gives the date. Like, that in my mind was kind of like how I imagined it to be. And I was like, damn, that'd be so cool. But now it's like, you're right. It's like, we've seen it twice. We saw the initial trailer, which was amazing. We saw the cinematic thing they showed at the Game Awards 2 years ago, 2021, where it was just like 8 minutes of uninterrupted gameplay. Granted, it seemed like you were just holding the controller in one direction or whatever, and there wasn't really much to do. Now you've seen this. So hopefully at E3 this year, Phil just visited them, and then as soon as he was done visiting them, he went back and he played Hellblade 1 to get all the achievements in it. I do hope third time we see it. Yeah, it's got to be gameplay because it's got to be close. Whether or not it comes out at the end of this year in like the November time frame, or it comes out early next year, it's got to be close. And I'm dying to see the improvements that Ninja Theory has made with the investment of all the Microsoft money. Like, more people are working on the game. They clearly have a bigger budget. I'm really excited to see where the story goes and how they can improve it. That's why I'm super excited. That's when I saw that, I was like, literally, I had goosebumps on my arms. I was like, this is what I want. This is amazing. And then that all happened on the same day during the Redfall stuff. So people were even freaking out even more. And now it's become a meme. Now it's become a meme.
Her face is a meme.
Which is great. Just buy an Xbox, right? Like, with her smiling like that. I love it. I love it. Mr. Too Opinionated says it's about the creatives at these teams. Stop short-term contracts at 343 when we're talking about that. And Dub says, seeing the tech that Ninja Theory have with realistic character, would love to see them oversee other studios in that department. Imagine a Wolfenstein, Halo, Gears, etc. with that level of quality. And yeah, I'm just thinking like, bro, imagine what the Coalition is going to be able to do with Unreal 5 and how that game's going to look like. Because there are, like, Unreal Engine 5 looks great, but the only Unreal Engine 5 game that's out right now is Fortnite. There hasn't been an Unreal Engine 5 game that's released yet.
Isn't that Matrix demo Unreal Engine 5?
It was, but I mean, it's not really a game. It's just a demo. I'm saying, like, it just seems to be a bunch of demos. Where are the actual products? Where are the actual games? The only one that exists right now is Fortnite. And for a while, everybody thought, for whatever reason, that Redfall was an Unreal Engine 5 game. And it came out that it's not. It's an Unreal Engine 4.25 game or something, right? So it's like, what's the hold up with Unreal Engine 5? I thought it was like super easy to use. But I mean, Dub is right. Like, yeah, bro, what's Gears 6 going to look like, right? And if they're sharing all these tech, like, yeah, like, you know, Indiana Jones, stuff like that, like, it could be real. Like, Gear 6 could be mind-blowing. Because if there's somebody who understands the Unreal Engine as good, I'm not going to say better than the people who make Fortnite, it's definitely the Coalition. I mean, so, and I know how much you love Gears, you know? So, I don't know, that's super exciting to me, the Hellblade stuff. So, what else we got, Jez? We have Starfield versus Spider-Man 2 in September. Very interesting here. I don't know if you saw this, but Tony Todd, who does the voiceover for Venom, basically let it leak that Spider-Man 2 is going to release in September. Said that he thought it was coming in September and that big commercials and the push would happen in August. So, Jez, are you concerned that Spider-Man 2 will overshadow Starfield? Is it a battle that, should they go head-to-head? Because Starfield's on September 6th. Spider-Man 2018 released on September 7th. They could easily release Spider-Man 2 on September 8th. Huge game, potentially going to be bigger than God of War was, and God of War sold like 11 million copies in 3 months.
I think it's going to be an interesting battle, right? I think what will happen is, in the short term, I can see Spider-Man 2, you know, fully, you know, blowing up against Starfield, right? I can see it being a huge game, a huge deal. But I tell you what's going to happen, you know, over time, is you're going to see Starfield have this massive long tail and be this juggernaut that just keeps going, and keeps going. Earlier we were talking about user-generated content, right? And Starfield is going to be this massive platform for user-generated content. They haven't revealed anything about that yet, but, you know, I guarantee you they're going to have a huge modding platform. They're probably going to pay creators, even though everyone was mad about that plan. It's going to happen. You know, Roblox does it, Fortnite does it, you know, Minecraft does it. It's just the way the industry's going. So I think Starfield's going to be this massive user-generated content play, whole galaxy full of custom planets and custom stories that people have handcrafted and you can download and you can play. And you'll be playing Starfield forever. You know, people do this in Skyrim and Fallout even now, and Starfield's going to be like that times a galaxy. It's going to be huge. So I think, like, initially, Spider-Man's going to blow up. It's going to, you know, probably be well above 90 on Metacritic. It's going to win a lot of praise and a lot of accolades. But Starfield's on PC. Starfield's on Xbox Game Pass. And Starfield's going to have this massive, you know, potential to be the next Skyrim or the next Fallout, you know. So I just think, like, that's ultimately the way it'll go. And it's going to be a battle of the Titans, probably. And that's only if, like, the jury's really out on whether Starfield will be polished enough, you know, because it's fair to expect that Spider-Man will be very polished at launch. Insomniac and, you know, Sony in general seem to be good at nailing that launch polished state, generally speaking. You know, they have had some blips. You know, Days Gone comes to mind. But generally speaking, people expect Spider-Man 2 to launch in a state of quality, whereas people might have a wait-and-see approach to Starfield because of Bethesda's notoriety for roughness, you know? So, I guess we'll wait and see. I mean, what are your thoughts on it? And what are you going to play first? Because you're a multi-platform gamer guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what comes out first, right? And what the spread is. I mean, there is a possibility they release 2 days apart. And I guess, Sony could be like, well, maybe we have the upper hand here because more people know about Spider-Man. And it was a huge seller for the platform. But I sort of feel like maybe if it does come out in September, which is looking like it is, they could easily put it out the following week or the week after. I mean, there's no reason why it's like you would even want to go head to head. Starfield's planted its flag and said, we're September 6th. Like you said, it's on Xbox, it's on Game Pass, it's on PC. So there's the potential for more people to be playing it immediately than would be playing Spider-Man 2. Although a lot of people will be talking about Spider-Man 2 because it's a first-party PlayStation exclusive that was incredibly good, right? So I mean, if I'm PlayStation, maybe I put it out the week after. I don't think there's any reason to go head to head because why bother? Like, you're only really hurting yourself at that point. I know some people will say, well, Spider-Man 2 would destroy Starfield, but it's like, yeah, but Spider-Man 2 is only going to be on PS5. Starfield is going to be on Game Pass and on PC, and it's already still like the most wishlisted game on Steam. Like, I don't know. It sort of feels like you don't necessarily want to, if you can avoid it, go head to head. Because you never know what could happen, right? So it's definitely the battle of like two of the biggest games this year. Clearly, like, well, actually, 2 of the 4. Like, when you look at like 5, you look at the biggest games of the year, whether it's from sales or from like player counts, you're gonna have Zelda, right? Because everybody's gonna buy Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. It's gonna win Game of the Year at the Keeleys. I have no doubt about that right now. No doubt. Hogwarts Legacy was huge. Have you seen a lot of the media saying that nobody's playing Hogwarts Legacy anymore? Have you seen some of that?
I've seen some of it, and it's like, bro, this is what happens to single player games, bro.
Game. Yeah, a lot of people buy it right away, but guess what? They don't really hold on for very long. A month or two later, and everybody's beating it, and people move on. That's what happens. Like, yeah, I don't know why that's a story. I mean, it seems to be.
It peaked at 850,000 concurrent players on Steam. That, like,
yeah,
only a handful of games in history can even dream of those kind of figures.
Yeah, so Hogwarts, one of the best-selling games of the year. Starfield, maybe won't be one of the best-selling on console because it's on Game Pass, which I don't know if you really even want to compare a game that's on a subscription service and the one that isn't, but it's going to be played by, I would hazard a guess, a month later. Bethesda might give PR that's like, it's been played by 20 million people.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
I mean, dude.
Diablo 4 is going to be absolutely massive. One of the best-selling games of the year. The new Call of Duty, I mean, it's Call of Duty. It's going to be one of the biggest games of the year. Right? So, but like, here you have Spider-Man 2 and you have Starfield, both 2 of the biggest games of the year. That's a battle. Right? There's only so many websites. There's only so many people. There's only so much time. It's like, I don't particularly want to pick and choose because I can make the argument of like, you asked me what I would play first. I can make the argument like, I'll play Spider-Man first. You want to know why I would play Spider-Man first if they all drop the same day? Because Spider-Man's going to be about a 20-hour, maybe 25-hour game, and then I'm done. Starfield, going to be much longer than that. And who knows? Maybe Starfield's a little rough around launch. So if I spend my time playing my one-and-done Spider-Man 2, which I have no qualms about playing one-and-done games. I love some great single-player games, right? But by the time I'm done with that Spider-Man 2, never to be played again, maybe there's an update for Starfield. And then I can just enjoy Starfield and not be like, oh, well, I already have Spider-Man 2 and I want to get to that. You know what I'm saying? So if like they both came out the same day, I probably would choose Spider-Man simply because I'll be done with it quicker. Whereas like I definitely would spend a lot more time in Starfield exploring planets and going through the story and doing all those things that you can do in those type of games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, case in point, I was just looking up, user retention on Steam, and there are 18,000 players, almost 18,000 players in Fallout 4 right now. Playing Fallout 4 right now, even though it's like, 10-year-old game or something. There's only 2,800 players playing Spider-Man Remastered. And Spider-Man Remastered peaked on Steam at 57,000 users, whereas Fallout peaked at 472,000 users. So, like, you really cannot underestimate how popular Bethesda is on PC. Like, the mods, the user retention, like, these games are the games you get lost in, you play forever, They're huge and complicated. And I think it's a little unfair to do direct comparisons to Spider-Man 2 and Starfield. And I think, like, fanboys that are trying to do this, especially from Sony's side, they're barking up the wrong tree, because the Bethesda games are just another kettle of fish. A lot of people have, like, this Fallout 76 thing stuck in their head. Like, Bethesda can't make games anymore because Fallout 76 launched in a total state. But it's like, well, I hate to break it to you, but Fallout 76 is doing pretty well on Steam as well right now. So, it certainly seems like, they make games that, yeah, maybe they're buggy, but dude, people play them. There are 11,000 players on Fallout 76 right now on Steam. So,
yeah. And God help you if Starfield's reviewed well. If Starfield's reviewed in that 90 Metacritic thing, and it's the game people expect it to be,
and marketed well.
Oh boy, yeah, marketed well too. But I know, but I think Bethesda will do a good job marketing. If it was Xbox, I'd be like, I don't know. They'd make memes, and that's about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the first mod that lets you fly Thomas the Tank Engine as a spaceship.
Oh well, yeah. There was also not necessarily an announcement, but a leak maybe that there's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle AAA game coming based on the Last Ronin comic book. I've no idea, like, when people ask you about, like, hey, what sort of, like, game would you want? And you try to think of, like, something, that you'd be really interested in, and you can't come up with stuff. And then you see something like this, and you're like, this. Dude, I would be so down for a AAA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle that plays like, a God of War or something. Like, that would be a dream game. And it's all based on a comic where there's a turtle that uses, the fighting styles of all the turtles. So, like, the nunchucks, the sais, the bow staff, the sword. Because it was kind of, in the comics, basically a who is the turtle, right? Because it's like, who is this? Because I guess the other ones are dead. And so it's like, which one's still left? But he fights like all of them, and it was like a secret of which one it was. So when I saw this, I think... No, I won't. But when I saw this...
Where can you watch that?
It's a comic book called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin.
Oh, you have to read it? Ugh.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're going to have to read it.
I thought it was like a comic book movie or cartoon or something.
No. But... Dude, when I saw that from Polygon, I was like, this is one of those things where it's like, it's not even something I knew I wanted until, like, someone said I was going to get it in a few years. Like, I totally want this Turtles game. What about you?
I mean, sure. I ain't like a huge Turtles guy, And I didn't think you would be a huge Turtles guy either, considering how you pronounce Blastoise. But, yeah. I'm intrigued, I guess. I need to see it first, though. Is there a studio attached to this or anything? Because like it could be some terrible studio making it. Like licensed games haven't always been great. Like you need only look at like Warhammer 40k or something for an example of a franchise that is sort of prostituted out. Across every studio that you can imagine, and you'll get one game that's like amazing. You get an amazing Warhammer 40k game, and then you get like absolute trash. So it's like with licensed games, it's really hit and miss. So Yeah. Wait and see, man.
Let's talk about the ABK stuff because I think we're at that point now. So if you guys are
already?
enjoying the show, I mean, we're not ending already. I just feel it's time to talk about it.
I know. I
right?
mean, didn't we already talk about ABK?
No, we haven't delved into what they actually said or delved into the senator stuff. We kind of just been beating around the bush. We talked about some of it, but now we can actually get into the specifics.
Pushing around the beat. All right.
So, if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button and please subscribe. Because the CMA is backtracked. The CMA has admitted they made an error, which, according to some of these lawyers, is something that never happens. It's completely rare, right? Because the CMA originally, when they posted all these things months and months ago, it said there was like 3 theories of harm, I believe. One was about the cloud, one was about the console space and the Call of Duty access, and one was about multi-game subscriptions. And then most recently, we found that they were still concerned about the console space, Call of Duty access, and cloud, but they were no longer concerned about multi-game subscriptions, right?
Mm.
And then it comes out today that basically they made an error and that they're no longer concerned that what's the exact quote? Because I should find this.
I'll find it. Give me a sec.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, UK regulator narrows concerns. So, the CMA has received a significant amount of new evidence in response to its original provisional findings. The CMA explains via Windows Central. Samuel Tolbert, shout out to him. Having considered,
you were sleeping. This should have been your story, right? But you were.
I was in another town, man. I was.
But Sam does great work for Windows Central.
So. Samuel's awesome. The CMA has received a significant amount of new evidence. Having considered this new evidence carefully, together with a wide range of information gathered before these provisional findings were issued, CMA Inquiry Group has updated its provisional findings and reached the provisional conclusion that, wow, that's a lot of provisional in one sentence. That is so typical. Anyway, overall, the transaction will not result in a substantial lessening of competition in relation to console gaming in the UK. The CMA goes on to add that evidence is against Microsoft pulling Call of Duty from PlayStation after completing this acquisition. CMA is concerned with cloud gaming do remain, and a full report and decision is due by April 26th, 2023. Microsoft has been on a deal-making blitz in the last couple of months, signing agreements for cloud gaming with companies like Ubisoft, Boosteroid, and Nvidia, while agreeing to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo in the future. So that was shared today by the good old CMA, UK's Competitions and Markets Authority.
Yeah.
And
we also had Lulu say something too.
Yeah, Lulu
said the CMA's updated provisional findings show an improved understanding of the console gaming market and demonstrate a commitment to supporting players in competition. Sony's campaign to protect its dominance by blocking a merger can't overcome the facts. And Microsoft has already presented the effective and enforceable remedies to address each of the CMA's remaining concerns. We know this deal will benefit competition, innovation, and consumers in the UK. Right? So, what do you think about all this?
Well, I am. Have we used our F-bombs yet? Can I drop an F-bomb?
No, you can use one. Use one F-bomb.
I am fucking shocked. I am shocked, actually, that the CMA would literally admit to miscalculating their provisional findings. It's not really been done before, from what I can tell. And, you know, this is like, in a lot of my coverage about the CMA revolves around the lack of faith I have in the UK establishment to actually examine facts. The UK establishment across the board is ideological. What can we get out of it? What can our mates get out of it? That's how politicians operate in the UK and probably everywhere, frankly. But the CMA is independent of the government. But it's still part of that regulatory sphere, that regulatory community, you know, which that is typically hard to penetrate with logic and facts a lot of the time. You know, like, for example, when the UK CMA blocked Facebook from buying Giphy, I was just like, why? That is so strange to me. And I am no fan of Meta, but it just that struck me as really strange that they would deny the Giphy founders an opportunity to exit on the business that they had built. And it's a GIF platform. Like, how is competition going to be harmed if Facebook owns a platform that gives you GIFs? It is just so strange. That felt like them ideologically just like, I don't know what you call it, like busybodying around the issue, you know. And I read some of their findings about that, and a lot of it was just like, this is just not a thing, you know. So I was just kind of like, my thought process was, they're going to do that to this deal, and they're just going to use their common sense, and they're not going to actually look into it in depth. They're just going to use their common sense. And because Sony enjoys a better mind share in the UK, and probably is viewed in a more favourable light in the UK, they were probably expecting everyone to be like, oh, you're totally right about this. You know, we should block this, you know. And when they asked consumers and all that kind of stuff, even consumers were like 70% were like, yeah, the deal should go ahead. And they asked developers and they were like, yeah, the deal should go ahead and all that kind of stuff. And I think the CMO is probably surprised at how much pushback they got from the media, from content creators, from influencers, from the public at large when they were doing their findings. And they were like, oh shit, we need to go a bit further than the common sense narrative, ideological stuff. We need to actually look at this properly. So then they have looked at it properly, and they've discovered that all the facts are on Microsoft's side. All the math is on Microsoft's side. All the facts and figures, the finances, are all on Microsoft's side, in that it will create a more competitive landscape for consoles, and it will create jobs in cloud for the UK, which is trying to be a technical Silicon Valley in Europe, is what the government said. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if like the government was involved in this a little bit, because if the CMA is just gonna wield tech mergers, wield a bludgeon against tech mergers because big tech bad, you know, it kind of it prevents the idea that big companies will invest in the UK as a country for tech investment, you know. And the UK economy is not doing that great right now. It needs all the investment from big tech companies that it can get. So there's probably a lot of angles to this, you know, and we'll get into it in, you know, probably more nitty-gritty detail with Florian Mueller of Foss Patents, who's going to come on with us on Xbox 2 next week. But I'm honestly shocked, man. I am shocked that they did such a total U-turn on this. And that's what it is. It's a complete U-turn. It's a complete refactoring of their argument into one that ultimately favors the deal going through. Because Microsoft's making those deals to end fears about competition in the cloud industry, you know. So, yeah, I suppose that's the way it's all going to go, and I'm just shocked, man. I mean, I don't know if you have a different take, bro.
Well, I'm not shocked. I mean, I guess it's shocking that they decided that, like, recently that they made a mistake in using some math that Microsoft said, hey, no, you're doing the wrong thing. This is the calculation you should be doing. And then they went to it and realized that, oh yeah, there isn't going to be this lessening of competition, because Sony has been trying their hardest to get this blocked by making up, you know, a new market called the high-end video game console market, right? Basically, because Sony had a clear goal about blocking this, but none of their arguments really made any sense, which is one of the reasons why we like making fun of it, because I agree that they should have tried everything they do to block it, but nothing they said made a lick of sense to anybody who actually follows the video game industry. They're like, this will destroy the industry, but it's hard to make that argument when the entire industry was for it, right? They're like, you can't look at Nintendo and say, you know, because the whole thing was like, oh, well, you know, we need this game. It's so important to us. If we don't have it, we won't be able to compete. But it's like, well, Nintendo doesn't have it, and they actually do extremely well. But then Sony's like, but they don't count. Nintendo doesn't count. They're not in the high-powered gaming console. And, a lot of the regulators bought that. But then and when it came up, Microsoft could take it away from us. You can't trust things that Microsoft are saying. They come up with these examples of things they were saying. They use the Bethesda example of you can't trust these things. Microsoft could do a number of these things. They could raise the price of the game. They could degrade the game by introducing bugs. They could not use haptics. They could take the game away from us. And it's at each juncture, Microsoft's we are willing to sign this deal. You will get Call of Duty for 10 years, right? There'll be content parity, technical parity. We'll use haptics. And in that meantime, you can build your own competitor if you want to, right? So it's they were trying to basically minimize every issue that Sony had about losing COD. And I'm just surprised it's really taken this long for the CMA to come to conclusion based on what everybody in the industry was telling them and what consumers actually wanted, because they said consumers were mostly all behind this, right? And it finally came to the conclusion that Microsoft's so far behind Sony when it comes to console sales in the entire world that even if Microsoft made it exclusive, it wouldn't matter that much. In fact, Microsoft wouldn't make it exclusive because they would lose money from that, right? I mean, you look at some of the stuff here that they have written and they say about it, right? They go on to say that while the parties and third parties submitted new data that was not available at the provisional findings and additional observations on a financial model that we use to measure Microsoft's long-term financial incentives for making COD exclusive to Xbox, that model uses lifetime value of gamers, blah, 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 blah. And it basically came to their new revised model now suggests that making COD exclusive to Xbox would result in a significant financial loss for Microsoft post-merger. And given the magnitude of these potential losses under all scenarios that we consider to be plausible, we now place significantly more weight on the LTV model than we did at the start of their professional findings. So all of their professional findings, they were using a model that basically said to them, maybe it's possible you make it exclusive. But now they're using this updated model, and it's telling them this wouldn't be a profitable merger for Xbox whatsoever, right?
Yes.
They go on to say that Microsoft made submissions on the nature of past acquisitions of gaming studios and its longer-term strategic objectives. In relation to its past acquisition, Microsoft pointed to the similarities between Minecraft and COD, noting Microsoft's decision to keep Minecraft available on all platforms post-acquisition, including putting on new platforms like Nintendo. In relation to its longer-term strategic objectives, Microsoft submitted that these are speculative and uncertain and that they are already captured by the LTV, which is funny because there's an unnamed third party here that I'll get to that basically says you can't compare Call of Duty to Minecraft. In fact, you need to compare Call of Duty to ZeniMax, which is absurd. It's absurd, Jez. But Sony's going to do what Sony needs to do. So of course they would say, don't pay attention to Microsoft saying that they're going to treat it like Minecraft, because Minecraft's not like COD. You need to look at what they did to Bethesda. You need to look at the games they've taken away from us, Redfall and Starfield and the rest. You need to be focused on that. They're going to make those exclusives. That is the angle Sony was using, right? Don't believe Microsoft.
That's crazy.
Right?
What bugs me most about that is that it's a lie. Because Sony knows the business model doesn't work if it's exclusive. They know that. They can't sustain 7 studios making Call of Duty with the stock of Xbox consoles they have. They wouldn't be able to meet demand on Xbox consoles for one thing. And if you've got to pay all that staff to make Call of Duty and you can't make money on it by putting it on PlayStation where it's most played, the business model just doesn't work. And they know that. They know it.
Well, so here's what the CMA said. We remain of the view that the acquisition of Call of Duty differs significantly. And you notice how they say the acquisition of Call of Duty. It's not even the acquisition of Activision Blizzard King. It's the acquisition of Call of Duty. That's why I'm telling you they'll be able to put most of those games exclusive if they want. The only one that matters is COD, because Sony's made that readily apparent. That's the only one that matters. They sort of maybe screwed themselves there, right? So the CMA goes on to say that it's significantly different from any of Microsoft's past gaming acquisitions, but we now consider that previous acquisitions, many of which were more in effect acquisitions of talent for the purpose of making new exclusive content for Xbox, are of relatively less significance in providing insight to the strategy that Microsoft is likely to pursue in relation to Call of Duty. We also consider that there's insufficient evidence to show that the less quantifiable long-term strategic benefits of a foreclosure strategy would outweigh the more tangible losses arising from a total foreclosure strategy indicated by the new model. As such, we now place less weight on Microsoft's past behavior and long-term strategic benefits in our assessment of Microsoft's incentives to foreclose PlayStation. Yeah, they basically are basically saying in this that we're disregarding what PlayStation has been telling us. PlayStation is telling us you need to focus on what they did with Bethesda, and now the CMA is being like, no, we're not. Like, right?
Yeah.
What else?
It's crazy. Here? Like every aspect of this is shocking for me. It's a complete 180, isn't it? It's a complete 180 on every level, almost.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm trying to get to the one that was about. Oh, here we go. A competitor in the console gaming market agreed with the CMA's conclusion in the provisional findings that the merger would result in an SLC on consoles. In relation to Microsoft's previous acquisitions, this competitor submitted that Minecraft is not a close analog to Call of Duty, including because, number one, you ready for this, Jez?
I'm ready.
It's a single release title that was published in 2011. Number two, it is based on a legacy monetization model of a one-time fee after which users receive lifetime updates and content. And number three, it is not graphically intensive and offers a visual experience that relies on blocky and pixelated visuals. And four, it does not drive anything close to the level of gameplay, engagement, or purchasing decisions as Call of Duty. Having fewer players, fewer monthly active users, lower engagement levels, less than a third of COD gameplay hours, and limited impact on console purchasing decisions. According to this competitor, the closest analog to the current transaction is Microsoft's acquisition of ZeniMax. So Sony, which is clearly this competitor here, is saying that Call of Duty is more comparable to ZeniMax, even though they just went through about how Minecraft can't be compared to it because it has less monthly active users and fewer players and lower. You want to talk about games that have fewer players and less monthly active users than Minecraft? ZeniMax? Hello? This idea also here that Minecraft is based on a legacy monetization model of a one-time fee. Hello, have you missed all the DLC that the game actually has that you have to pay for, or like the servers that you have to pay for too?
Dude, like I literally subscribe to Minecraft. I literally subscribe to it.
It's ridiculous, and this is why I made fun of Sony about. Make all the arguments you want about blocking the deal, but clearly they were just throwing shit at a wall. How do you say that Minecraft isn't comparable? Doesn't Minecraft have more monthly active users than Call of Duty? Isn't Minecraft at like 150 million monthly active users?
Yeah, it's yeah.
How do you then go on to say no, ZeniMax closer to it? Because ZeniMax games don't come anywhere close to any of that shit. Like,
I really think some lawyer putting that in there really overplayed and overstretched the CMA's ignorance. It just doesn't make sense. Dude, someone gets paid a lot more money than us to have made that blunder. I wouldn't be surprised if that was that mistake was a huge factor in the CMA going, hang on a sec, these guys are trying to pull a fast one on us, lads. I don't know. It's crazy, man. But like I said earlier, all the facts, when you actually... The issue always was, from day one, would the CMA look at the facts? That was always my issue. was my faith in the CMA to live in the same reality as a sane person. And I did not believe that they would. But thankfully, someone in this whole process has said to the CMA, look, you've got to come back to reality on this one. Mm-hmm. On this one, there's just too much evidence, you know, we wouldn't be fit for purpose in this situation otherwise. And yeah, so while I'm surprised from a sort of a state of pure pessimism about the British state, it's also like almost not surprising because there's so much evidence in contradiction to everything that Sony said, everything they've said. So I don't know.
But it seems like the one thing that Sony might get out of fighting this deal so hard, is maybe a deeper look into what they're doing in Japan. Because a senator said at a Senate Finance Committee hearing with the U.S. Trade Representatives, Catherine Tai, Cantrell referred to the FTC-defined high-end game market in Japan. Now, for those like people, I saw some people on Twitter being like, "What is she talking about? 98%? That doesn't make any sense. You can't just throw Nintendo away like that." But it's like, you guys don't realize what's actually being played here, because Sony made up this whole idea of a high-end game market and then pitched it to the FTC and the CMA, and they both bought it, right? So now Sony, in this market that they've defined for themselves, has this monopolistic lead in Japan. Granted, I mean, Microsoft kind of sucks in Japan anyways, and I don't really think they're going to make a difference. But either way, now people are looking at it like, well, wait a minute. Yeah, you said this is a high-end market, but you're dominating it completely, right?
Not just in Japan, but also in Europe. They use that argument to frame their arguments to the European Union.
Sony basically hung themselves. Like they basically created the rope, tied the knot, and hung themselves on this one.
We call that an own goal, you know, in soccer terminology.
And it's funny to see people not realize that. And it's like, and so when people say you can't just remove Nintendo like that, it's like, no shit. That's what Microsoft was trying to say. Nintendo's part of this market. They thrive without Call of Duty. How is Sony getting out here to say that it shouldn't matter that Call of Duty, or that they don't have Call of Duty, right? Because the graphics aren't that good or whatever, and the only little kids own Switch. Those were Sony's arguments about Nintendo, remember?
Yes.
Like, so now everything's come back full circle, and she says, "I'm told that Sony controls a monopoly of 98% of the high-end game market, yet Japan's government has allowed Sony to engage in blatant anti-competitive conduct through exclusive deals and payments to game publishers." She went on to suggest that Japanese Fair Trade Commission had failed to investigate Sony's exclusionary conduct and inquired how the region intended to create a level playing field.
That was also just wild to see this high-end console market narrative be just inverted, turned inside out, flipped upside down, and slapped around, because it's what Sony and the FTC defined at the end of the day. And now it's being used to showcase the fact to other regulators that, yeah, Sony has a vast market share advantage in these companies, in these countries, and they use their market share to land favorable exclusivity deals, you know, like Final Fantasy 16 and whatever else, Silent Hill 2, Knights of the Old Republic, whatever else. Who knows if Knights of the Old Republic sees the light of day, actually, at this point. But you know, there's loads of big name games that have been skipping the platform because, as a result of Sony's market share and the fact that they can ask for more for less. You know, Microsoft, because, you know, Microsoft has a smaller footprint and exclusivity would mean less game sales, Microsoft would have to pay more for exclusivity. So it kind of puts them in a weaker losing position, you know. And, you know, some people, Rand, pointed out that this senator is a Washington State senator, which is
bought and paid for by Microsoft.
Bought and paid for by Microsoft. And people shared people shared tables showing where her main campaign finances come from, and at the top, her campaign contributions were from Microsoft. However, what these same people didn't say was that that figure represents 30 years worth of campaign donations, and also it doesn't represent corporate donations. It represents, individuals who were employed by Microsoft. And Microsoft is one of the biggest employers in Washington. So it over 30 years kind of makes sense that one of the biggest group of employees that would be contributing to her probably would be from Microsoft, as a company that employs hundreds of thousands of people. That being said, at the same time, she probably is a little biased about it. Sure. But in democracy, aren't you supposed to represent the interests of your constituents? Like, and if her constituents are like, this is in our interests, surely she's just doing her job? It's not Microsoft paying off a senator here. It's a senator representing her constituents who basically put her in power and said, we're donating to you, we're voting for you, represent our interests in the Senate. And that is literally what she's doing. So it's not Microsoft's donating $500,000 to her and then she's shared their talking points. It just so happens that over the last 30 years, Microsoft is Washington State's most successful employer, So yeah, she is biased, but she's also doing a job, and she's also not wrong. So again, it's just another own goal at the end of the day. And it's just, from the outset, Rand, I was just mind blown that Sony even tried. That they even went to bat for this. That they were like, that they even thought this is a fight that we should fight and that we could win. I'm confused that they thought this was a good idea. I don't know. I think they should have tried to work with Microsoft, and like I wrote in my article, and focused on the bigger threat of which is Apple and Google blocking cloud services and third-party games and blocking Sony potentially from iOS, iPad, Android, and all this other stuff, and making it hard to do business on these platforms. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a whole ass circus, and I am just so glad we can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes. Well, now it's like, okay, so you got the CMA. I would imagine Microsoft will make more cloud deals. I think CMA approves it. I think the European Commission approves it before May 22nd. They don't have to wait. That's the deadline. I think they approve it beforehand. So that leaves the FTC. And what do you do with that? Now, Microsoft has sort of said that they will, if they have to, close the deal without redo the merger agreement and close the deal without FTC approval. Basically trying to force the FTC to file a federal injunction. Because the FTC knows they don't have a case. The FTC knows they're going to lose that. So I guess the question now remains, will the FTC, and now you got senators talking about this stuff, if Sony comes and signs a deal, is the FTC basically going to call up Microsoft and try to save face by coming to some sort of agreement, some sort of concessions that they're already giving to other regulators? Or are they going to get embarrassed in court again? Or will they not even, because the potential here is they could redo the merger agreement, say they don't need FTC approval, close the deal, and then the FTC may just not decide to file an injunction, and the deal just passes anyways, because they don't really approve deals. But maybe I would imagine Microsoft wants to be the good guy here, so they would probably look for some sort of deal with them, because it sort of seems like all the scenarios that the FTC and the CMA had from Sony have all blown up in their faces, and it's not reality anymore. And we all knew the FTC stuff was just strictly based on politics. It was Lena Khan basically saying, the buck stops here regarding big tech and big tech bad. Like anybody that looked at this merger was like, there's no reason this merger should be blocked. There's zero reason this merger should be blocked. And the FTC got out there first. They were like, all right, you know what? We're going to sue to block, right? And we're just going to wait out Microsoft and hope that the European Commission and the CMA block it so that we could get a victory. But it looks like the opposite's going to happen, that both the European, the European outlets are basically going to approve it. And that kind of basically just that'd be another, black mark on the legacy of this FTC. So what do you think happens? Do you think they come to the table, an agreement, and they that whole trial that's supposed to happen just doesn't happen? Do you think Microsoft just says, call our bluff and we're gonna close this shit? What do you think happens with the FTC now?
I honestly don't know. Like I ain't that familiar or confident to comment on the way the FTC operates. I ain't looked into that, what they've done in the past, especially this version's FTC. It's like someone said in the chat, Joe Sinister, the FTC should have had this energy for cable companies. Shaking my head, there's a lot of things they should be looking at that they are dedicating the wrong energy to, and maybe the FTC will look at the CMA's findings and be like, yeah, maybe the math just is against us here, and maybe they will come to the table, maybe they will do a deal. I think Microsoft and Brad Smith have literally said that they're still willing to talk, and they're still willing to do a deal and all that kind of stuff. And I want to hope that this just all gets resolved peacefully and it just ends so I can just stop covering it. And just move on, and the fanboys can get out of my mentions and the crying, and they can move on and play games and be happy,
Oh, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, maybe. I suppose
these are people. When the news hit that Redfall had a canceled version for the PS5, were literally tagging the CMA and the FTC. And these were people that said this torpedoes everything Xbox is saying about the CMA. And then the CMA came out like literally 2 days later and was like, "No, we don't care what Microsoft did before. Completely different." Like they're basically laughing in your faces, just like I am.
I'm just a little bit of my faith has been restored in the UK establishment.
Dude,
a little bit.
Feelings Jez gets the victory today.
Feelings-based Jez, and then I get to play Diablo this weekend as well. Victory.
When the deal goes through, is the best studio Xbox have now Blizzard? In your opinion?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, is that vaguely any kind of doubt?
I'm just asking. I'm just asking where
Don't
you
even
put them.
Question that, bro. Sacrilegious, bro. Well, Blizzard's an interesting studio because they're sort of like they're set up. Blizzard itself is like several numbered teams. There's like Warcraft team and the Diablo team and stuff like that, and they sort of cross over and work on different stuff. Like it's a very interesting setup they've got there, from what I understand, anyway. So like when you say Blizzard's the best developer at Microsoft, it's like Blizzard's like several teams. It's like, yeah, but which Blizzard? You got Blizzard Albany and all that kind of stuff. So, but it's as a fan, it's a dream come true. I've wanted Blizzard separate from Activision since forever. I wrote an article about this in 2016. It's you can go and look at it. It's titled something like, "Is Activision finally devouring Blizzard?" Because Blizzard started on this like downward spiral where it was like trend chasing, pay to win stuff, and World of Warcraft was in a terrible state, nickel and dime everything. Then you had the Warcraft 3 debacle where they'd outsourced one of the most legendary games ever made, Warcraft 3. They outsourced it to some like small dev, and they'd reduced it. Warcraft 3 Reforged had less features than Warcraft 3, and then they removed the Warcraft 3 client. It was like, what the hell are they doing? They went through that like Fallout 76 arc, but now, redemption, baby. And I'm just excited for what it could mean, I'm just excited.
Indeed. Let's hit some Patreon questions, shall we?
Hell yeah, let's get in some Patreon. Let me drop
We
a
got some Patreon
timestamp on there.
questions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so if you
Patreon.
subscribe to Patreon at the $7 tier, I think you get Xbox 2 Ultimate, but you also get exclusive Q&A section right here, right now.
Yeah.
So let's rock and roll, baby.
Patreon.com/XB2. Links in the description. We also have Xbox 2+1 coming on Monday at around noon Eastern with Foss Patents talking about all this ABK stuff. It's going to be very interesting hearing, someone who actually knows all this stuff rather than just me and Jez talking about it. Can't wait to talk to him. So,
and you only got one disconnect during the show.
Yeah, which was great. But good thing you hosted it.
Yes,
so.
It is.
Very good. We going to start off with Sith Lord, who says, "Why do PlayStation fans feel like they're owed everything? Like they feel they should get Starfield and Redfall, but when it's theirs exclusive, they reply with buy PlayStation."
I mean, there's a lot of hypocrisy, and and sometimes like people fall into this trap of ascribing opinions to a collective. So it's like we'll say, well, PlayStation fans said this, and they said the other. But really, when you break it down to individuals, it's like one individual said this, which contradicted what another individual said. But the problem with this situation is there are like content creators where you can go back, individuals, you can go back and see like their takes on. I'm not going to name names because I don't do the dogpiling thing unless someone comes at me. If you come at me, heaven forbid, But I don't attack people generally by name, but there are content creators out there who they said one thing about one game and then they contradict themselves when it comes to Xbox, and it's like this double standard, right? One thing I really try hard to be is consistent in myself, but there are definitely some fans who are contradicting themselves, and I think that's when you get confused when your emotions get involved. It's really easy to contradict yourself sometimes. That's why I talk about feelings-based Jez and facts-based Jez. I have the facts-based Jez who does the journalistic stuff, and I have to think about everything analytically and stuff. And then feelings-based Jez, which is an Xbox and PC gaming fan, Blizzard fan, and thinking about what would I want as a fan. I think you can split those sometimes if you try hard enough, and I have to professionally. What's good for the industry isn't necessarily always what's good for me, But yeah, and then El Blah in chat says some people are just bandwagon sheep. There's that too. There's that as well.
Yeah. I think it's just because that's what they're used to. They're used to having everything, right? So
they've been at the top for a long time.
Yeah, they're used to having anything that's important or good, essentially, right? And now that they're not going to have that, and then Xbox is going to have a lineup of games that are going to be pretty damn good, they are like, well, wait a minute, we should have that too. And you're right. They always say if you want to play God of War, you got to buy a PlayStation. Well, I mean, you got to play a PlayStation to play it day one. I mean, you can wait and play it on PC. But even with Xbox, it's like, sure, just buy an Xbox or play it on PC or play it on your TV or play it on mobile, right? It's just, the thing is, Sith, is that all it proves is that they really want Xbox games. That's really it. Because if you didn't want them, you wouldn't talk about it, right? You wouldn't be doing any of that. If a game's not appealing to you, it's not appealing. But suddenly, the game has a PlayStation 5 version that's canceled, and now it's like the end of the world. All that says to me is that you really are down bad and wanted to play it, and you've just been putting up a front, the whole time. Ryan Kipple says, book tangent. Last week I mentioned the Darth Bane trilogy. Wanted to also mention Darth Plagueis, which is also basically Darth Sidious' origin story. Have you read that one, Rand? I have not read a Star Wars book, no. Not sure if this will put you in that Star Wars mood, Jez. Maybe Jedi Survivor next month will help?
Didn't we talk about this on a show?
Well, yeah, he's talking about
Oh yeah, last week I mentioned Darth Bane trilogy. Yeah, like I really want to eventually read some more of the Star Wars stuff. Like I think I said this on the Xbox 2 Ultimate show, where I have these like phases. I go through these phases of being like hyper addicted to Pokemon or hyper addicted to Warcraft, and then even hyper addicted to Star Wars. So I need to get into a Star Wars phase, and then I'll blitz through those books maybe on my Kindle or something. But
yeah. I can't wait for Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, that's another game I completely forgot about, Jedi Survivor. I need to finich the other one.
I mean, you probably should. Yeah.
Yeah. I was really enjoying it, and it's on cloud, right? I think.
It's on Game Pass Ultimate through EA Play. So yeah.
I'll rock that in bed then. Maybe that'll be my cloud game for a bit, because dude, xCloud in Germany is really good right now. Like no lag, no artifacts, 3D games at 60 frames per second, no issues whatsoever. I don't know if it's because I live near a data center or something, but it's crazy where I am right now. Really good.
We have Christopher Flores saying this question is very far-fetched, but with the addition of Silksong to Game Pass, the first Hollow Knight already being on Game Pass, and the rumors of a new Ori game with new devs, is there a possibility that Team Cherry is the team working on the next Ori game? I know it's very far-fetched, but it would be cool if it was true. It definitely would be very cool if it's true, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah, I highly doubt it. Also, like, Team Cherry is really good, and Hollow Knight's amazing, but I don't know if they have the same sort of art pipeline and creative vision that they could do an Ori game justice. And that's not me sort of attacking Team Cherry by any means, but it's like Ori's like, there's something about Ori that has to be almost from Moon Studios. I wouldn't be surprised if this new Ori game thing just isn't true, personally. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I can't wait for Silksong. I love Hollow Knight.
Another game I need to finish.
Hey, well, I mean, you did finish one game recently, so kudos to you. Tip my hat. You beat Resident Evil 4, which I downloaded last night. I'll be playing it this weekend, and then I'll be playing Sifu again next week. And then, boy, next month is what? Ghostwire Tokyo, and then Minecraft Legends, and then Dead Island 2, and then Star Wars, and then Redfall. It's going to be crazy. There's a bunch of games. Not to mention, like, Lego 2K Drive. Did you see that, Jez? The announcement for Lego 2K Drive? Actually, it looks really cool. Do you see the trailer?
I did not see the trailer. You know, I actually was invited to preview that game, but I just could not fit it in. I think it fell when I was traveling or something, and then I didn't have anyone in the team who could fit it in either. It was really sad.
It's almost like just Lego Forza Horizon. You can transform cars. You can be like a boat into like a regular. Yeah, it looks really cool. I'm definitely very interested in that. But there's a lot of games coming up. Not to mention, then you get to June, right? And then it's Street Fighter 6, and then Diablo, right? And then like Final Fantasy 16. You know, then showcases and stuff to see what else is coming in the future. Like, it's a lot of stuff. But CJ's question is for you, Jez. He says, do you know why on the Xbox the Sky TV app is TV from Sky, and on PlayStation the app is Sky Go, which seems to be updated with much more frequency? The Sky app on Xbox has been poor for years and lacked features such as subtitles, where the Sky Go app on PlayStation is much more functional. Do you know why this is the case, and or if it's likely for this to change?
This is just pure market share thing, I think. So, like, I'm guessing that there's not many users on Xbox, which I suppose Sky thinks indicates it's not worth the investment. But yeah, I think that's honestly just it. It's a market share thing. It sucks, but kind of is what it is, you know. It's why I only use Netflix, because like one of the things that really bugs me about streaming services is that most of their apps are shit. Like even Prime Video, like the Prime Video app in the UK, I don't know if it's different in America, but it's awful compared to Netflix. So I literally just like, if I'm gonna watch something, if it ain't on Netflix, I just don't care, just because of the quality of the apps that are out there. Crunchyroll's good too. And who owns Crunchyroll? Sony. Who has a monopoly in anime streaming services?
Sony.
Maybe Sony will foreclose Crunchyroll from Xbox. No, not my waifus.
Hit you where it hurts. Katriox has a question for me. He says, when are you going to play Cyberpunk 2077 and finish Witcher 3? You're missing out, man. And have you ever thought about reading the Witcher novels? I have thought about reading the Witcher novels. I probably will read them at some point. I will play Cyberpunk 2077 at some point. It's just a matter of time. And same thing with Witcher 3. I mean, I already have like 50 hours in Witcher 3. The problem is it's like starting over from the very beginning. but I do want to complete both of those. I'll probably play Cyberpunk first. Maybe when the DLC comes out, or when there's maybe there's be some time in like July, August to be able to play it, where there's like enough time to play a game that big or something. But yeah, that's my plans. Silas says, Jez, I was curious about how games that debut in Game Pass affect review traffic on websites. Have you noticed on Windows Central when you post a review, is there a noticeable difference on review clicks for games that debut in Game Pass over ones that aren't? I would think that instead of reading a review for Wolong, one would try it for themselves instead of relying on another person's opinion. Big picture, I wonder if a side effect of subscription services would be a reduction in folks reading reviews since they don't have to fork over $60 to $70 for a game.
Well, here's the honest truth about game reviews.
Brutally honest truth.
The brutally honest truth about game reviews. They never ever get any clicks. So, you know. Game reviews are just like we do them because we like doing them, not because they make money. They really definitely do not make money. So, however, I will say that honestly, I think games that are in Game Pass probably boost clicks on reviews because there are more people interested in playing the game, and maybe they're at work and they can't. Like, honestly, Windows Central peak time is when everyone's at work and school. You know, they can't play games, so they're reading about them. So, like, maybe if a game's blown up on Game Pass and they know they're going to be playing it later, they're more likely to read a review about it while they wait, honestly. So, I haven't seen a scenario where it's like, oh, the review's done badly because it's in Game Pass. Probably quite the opposite, I think. But, reviews are hard to get traffic on because, you have to, there's an embargo, right? So everyone launches their review at the same time, all the YouTubers, all the big sites, or blah, 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 blah. It's almost impossible to compete with the likes of IGN and stuff like that when it comes to a game review. Especially for big games, because everyone does them. The reviews of mine that I've done the best have usually been for games that no one else has reviewed. So, yeah, it's hard. Reviews are hard, but it's not the business. Like, do that out of passion, not because it pays the bills. Reviews do not pay the bills ever.
Yeah, unless you're like a YouTuber like Skill Up or ACG or Mr. Matty Plays or something.
Yeah, like if you like big YouTuber and stuff, but like every website I've ever worked for, I've never seen a review trending hard. I think the problem with the review in the form of an article is you can't see it in motion a lot of the time, and you want to see a game in motion, right? Is why like I used to embed video clips in my reviews when I did do reviews, to try and show the game how the game plays, you know, so people could see it in action. And I used to do game reviews on video as well, but again, that's really hard to get competition with. You know, actually, Rand, one of my game reviews that did do really well was The Ascent. My review for The Ascent did really, really well. And I think that's because not a lot of people reviewed it. It was an Xbox launch exclusive, and also it was on Game Pass. So there was quite a lot of interest from it from Xbox fans, but maybe not so much from the big multi-platform websites. So yeah, it's weird. But yeah, it was a cool, interesting question. Thanks, Silas.
Yeah. It's a very interesting question. Let's see. We have Paul Prout saying, last week you guys talked about a mid-gen refresh. It made me think about something I thought prior to the start of the gen. Why are we having generations at all? Since the move to x86 where back compat is much less of an issue, I don't understand why Microsoft doesn't position Xbox as a platform that continuously evolves as new technology becomes available with the new SKU that developers can target and optimize towards every couple years. My understanding is that in the PC space, developers look at common sets of hardware, e.g. Steam hardware survey, and try to ensure their games achieve some-level of optimization based on these sets. Standard Xbox SKU every few years would streamline their targeting for developers. A budget edition would always exist through older SKU, similar to iPhones. As long as there's guarantees around developers must support SKU going back, X, like 8 years, I feel like this model could work for everyone. Bleeding edge for those that can afford, and to use iPhones as an example, but an SE for those on tighter budgets. Thoughts, feelings, emotions? You've talked about this quite a bit, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, this is a highly technical question, I guess, at the end of the day. So like it's kind of hard to speak to what the potential challenges are with regards to that. But I do think like as we move towards more cloud stuff and virtualized gaming environments, virtual machines and stuff like that, it's kind of potentially inevitable that, you know, the technology will scale a bit more, you know? Like when you use Nvidia GeForce Now, for example, when you pay for an Nvidia GeForce Now subscription, you don't just pay for the games, you also pay for the quality of the hardware you're getting. So there's like a mid-level subscription where you get like a 3000 series RTX graphics card, and there's like a high-end subscription where you can go all the way up to RTX 4090 based on availability, you know. So like that's kind of that vision, isn't it? That's why I do think probably we will go in that direction. But I think, honestly, we need to know more about the tech before I could really make a call.
I think it's because the market just isn't there for that.
Yeah,
there isn't enough people. There isn't enough people. Like when you look at phones, you bring up the phone model. You look at, hey, there's 4 versions of iPhones every year, but like a phone is standard for everybody to have, and phones are also sold for profit, right? Consoles are usually sold at a loss, right? So you get a phone because you need it, and then you pay it off over 3 years. The problem with consoles is everybody buys it, you know, because they need it to be cheap. Nobody wants to buy a $700, $800 console that would they be selling for profit, right? So they sell for a loss. So like you sell the base consoles, everybody buys it, continues to buy it. Then you have a couple years later, you'd have new consoles or next gen update or upgrade, like mid gen upgrades. Some of those people will continue to buy it, but then 2 years later, how many people will then buy that one? Like I sort of feel like the market's not big enough, like the phone market is, to support multiple iterations every couple years. And the fact that they sell these things usually for a loss, I think also factors into that. Whereas like, PC is like you can build your own. They sell those, I think, mostly at profit too, because they can, so I think it's just the way consoles are built and everything surrounding it. I just don't think it's feasible for them to introduce new consoles every couple years. But I could be wrong. I mean, I'm just speculating about it, but
speculating.
Thanks for the question.
Dude, yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in like maybe one Xbox 2 guest show. We could get on someone like Jason Ronald and wax lyrical about the future of tech and stuff like that. Dude, I'm playing just as a quick tangent. I'm playing Jedi Fallen Order right now on my Razer Edge at 60 frames per second with no lag. Razer Edge, by the way, is that handheld that Razer recently released, and dude, it's just like playing it native. It's so damn good. Can I record this? I'm gonna record this. I'll post about this on Twitter later.
You're playing that even though we're streaming the show. You're streaming it. We don't want this thing to break, Jez. You should wait.
No. I'm playing on my Razer Edge, my phone. My tablet, Nintendo Switch thing.
Oh, okay.
I've forgotten how to play. I'm getting my ass kicked, man.
We have a question here from It's Quite Small But Smells Like a Big One. Says
what?
I mean, that's his name.
Bruh.
It says, could Sony's parity clause BS survive in a post Xbox and ABK world? With Sony laying the groundwork with certain regulators saying that Xbox could intentionally produce an inferior version of a game for PS5, do you think Sony would go around running back to the CMA, for example, saying that Xbox has swindled their users anytime a PS5 version is even slightly inferior, like resolution, frame rate, ray tracing? What about when a PS5 version has bugs not present on Series console? I wouldn't put it past them. Well, that would be... Wasn't there something like I saw recently where whoever would be the third-party adjudicator or whatever in this matter would actually look at the versions and determine if they could release the game, period, or something like that? Like if there was some...
kind of spooky,
I don't know. I thought I remember reading that something, but but the CMA and the European Commission aren't concerned about that anymore, though. So there is that. They're not concerned about Microsoft foreclosing Sony on access to Call of Duty. So I don't know if that matters anymore. I mean, they signed the deal with Nintendo, so Microsoft has to do their stuff there, but I don't know.
Yeah. There's a lot of unknowns in this situation.
Yeah, Achievement says, if Spider-Man 2 launches the same time as Starfield, how long do you give the modding community before they put the whole New York map on one of the planets in Starfield? That would literally show people how much bigger Starfield is than Spider-Man in 2023. I mean, that would be funny. that that would be really funny. I didn't even think about that. Man, the modding community is going to be pretty big for Starfield, don't you think?
Dude, it's going to be massive. And I really do think they're going to do the paid mods thing, and they let they let people sell their mods and make money, like Roblox, like Fortnite. I really think they're going to go that way, but we'll wait and see. I guess I'm just guessing. No leakage.
Let's see here.
No leakage?
We have
that sounds kind of.
We have
nasty.
Jamie Mulholland says, between the two of you, what is each of your personal number one most anticipated games of 2023? I'm guessing for Jez, it's Diablo 4. And of course, you're right.
Yes.
And for Rand, it will be Starfield. Was I right? Love from Scotland. My most anticipated game is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. That's the one I'm, like, out of everything announced so far, that is definitely the one I'm most anticipating.
For the year?
Now, if Hellblade... Well, I mean, we only know if Hellblade 2 came out this year, that would be it. But number one is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Yes, 100%. And then probably 2 would be Resident Evil 4, which I cannot wait to play tonight. Cannot wait to play Resident Evil 4. Should I play it on hardcore or standard?
Yes, play it on hardcore. I recommend to anyone who like plays any Resident Evil like before or is familiar with it. Definitely play Resident Evil 4 on hardcore from the outset. It doesn't make it like super hard. It really doesn't. But it adds that sort of survival horror challenge that I thought was lacking in normal mode. Normal mode is way too easy. It's really easy. So.
Okay. I'm sorry if I say your name wrong. Ranjandra Gand. I'm sorry. Jez, do you know how to say his name? I can't. I'll just call him Raj. How's that?
Rajendra maybe?
I'll just call him Raj. What do you think of the Democratic senator from Washington, which not coincidentally is Microsoft's home state, wanting to look at Sony's monopoly status in Japan? Do you think that Sony should have taken the 10-year deal, COD deal with Microsoft ABK instead of going scorched earth? Well, hindsight's 2020, and it's starting to look that way, yes. But Sony maybe thought they had a good argument, and maybe now they realize that, this might have blown up in our face. Assuming anything happens out of, them looking at their practices in Japan anyways. But it's definitely... I think Sony basically segregating the market by excluding Nintendo has come back to hurt them. Maybe in a way they didn't anticipate. But I mean, Sony had to do whatever. They had to throw everything at a wall to see what sticks. And they felt it was best. Because you can't say Sony's you can't make the argument that Call of Duty is essential when one of the console manufacturer who does as well as you doesn't have it. Because that argument doesn't make a lick of sense then. Right? Just like the argument that the industry will be destroyed doesn't make any sense when the entire industry is behind the deal. So like Sony did what they thought was best at the time, and maybe if they had to do it again, they'd do it differently. But I think it hurt them. Christian Tuttle says, after the Activision Blizzard deal closes, do you think that Microsoft will even try to buy another publisher despite how controversial the ABK deal is? Yes, I do think they will.
Full publisher though?
Yes, I think they will. I think they will buy a publisher, but I still think that that's years down the road. 3 years, like 3 years from now. I'm not saying that's anytime soon. I'm not saying it's 2020 we bought Bethesda and 2022 we bought Activision, right? I'm saying this is years down the road. I personally think if you can get through Activision Blizzard, you can get through anybody else, except for maybe EA and Take-Two.
I think Phil needs a break, man.
Well, I'm just saying that's why it wouldn't it wouldn't be right away. I think maybe they go and focus on certain affinity and some of the other smaller studios that they, want to help, right? But I do think there is probably one more publisher that they can get that makes their whole strategy complete based in Japan. I definitely think they would look over there.
Which publisher?
Honestly, I mean, Capcom would be my personal favorite. They release a lot of games, but maybe for the strategy for the business and what everything's doing, especially with PC, I think maybe Sega makes more sense. Even though I think Sega's a little bit boring. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, but personally, Capcom. Strategically, maybe Sega. What do you think?
I think Capcom both strategically and preferentially. I think Capcom's just, well, I don't know. Maybe strategically Sega's better because you got Football Manager, you got Relic there.
You got a bunch of PC developers, right?
Yeah, a lot of PC games.
Like, you got like Yakuza and Persona. I mean, there's things you can do. But
dude, Resident Evil, Monster
Hunter. Resident Evil, yeah.
I think Monster Hunter really gives you that massive popular IP in Japan that I think they lack right now. Monster Hunter would really give them that. Because I think that's what they need. Is like they need games that appeal to the Japanese market. And I think a lot of Sega is, with the exception of like Atlas and Yakuza, oftentimes more Western focused these days, maybe. And Sonic's popular, but the games aren't great.
I mean, they just announced the last one sold 3 million.
Yeah,
help if it was on Game Pass. I don't know.
That's just because it's Sonic. It's not because it's good.
I know.
It's not because it's good.
Beethoven says, now that things are looking better for the deal to go through, do you think we will hear any updates soon from either Microsoft or Sony, as supposedly they were both holding back until the deal resolved one way or another?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, we know Sony did a state of play. Sony's, all reports, like according to Jeff Grubb, says they're getting ready to do a showcase before E3. Microsoft has their own showcase at E3. I mean, that whole holding back thing, that might be over. I mean, that's why people are talking about what next, because they're like, Sony has to respond to this. Like, what are they going to do? Who are they going to purchase? Like, that's why people are talking about it. So, yeah, I think so. Bike with Froman says, happy Friday, guys. Since Rand loves Pokemon, I got a hypothetical. Oh, God. Phil Spencer calls you up and tells you that in order for Hellblade 2 to come out, and you have to do a 24-hour Pokemon charity stream. If you say yes, he releases the game, and if you say no, he cancels it. Which would you choose?
Wow.
This is a horrible, horrible hypothetical for me.
Yeah, because, dude, you'd be screwing over everyone else.
Yeah, because then I would have the fury of the Xbox fans looking forward to Hellblade 2 on my shoulders, but I'd have to play one of the worst game franchises ever in the history of video games.
Oh, come on. It's not
and
that
it has
bad.
It has to be a 24-hour Pokemon stream, charity stream too. I mean, I'd probably bite the bullet and I'd do it. Right? But I want assurances that Hellblade 2 is amazing. Right? I'd be asking Phil, I'd be like, hey, what's the internal reviews like on this? And if Phil's like 92 meta, best Xbox game, I'd be like, all right, I'll stomach Pokemon for a day. But if Phil's just like, I don't know, it's much like the first game, I'd be like, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe I'll be the guy that you can all hate. But yeah, I'd probably do it.
So you'd take the bullet. You'd be the hero. Yeah. You'd be the hero.
I'd be the hero.
Not what we deserve.
If it was like, oh, you have to stream Pokemon or Banjo, and if you do, Banjo comes back, or if you don't, Banjo's dead. I'd be like, well, Banjo's staying dead. Sorry, my Banjo bros. Sorry, the franchise is staying dead if I got to play Pokemon. We also have another one. He says, Rand, have you seen the recent Wired article on Brandon Sanderson? I don't know how someone could write such a mean-spirited article and someone so nice and down to earth. I did. I read that yesterday. I couldn't believe that was an actual article.
Oh, I linked that to you on Twitter just now because I only just saw it. He responded on Reddit to it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I couldn't believe that. It was just like the writer went out of his way to make Brandon look awful or whatever, just like not interesting. Like, yeah, like is Brandon Sanderson the best writer in the world? Absolutely not. Does he craft some really amazing stories with great characters and amazing world building? You're damn right he does. I just it was a total hit piece. It was an awful article, but yes, I did see it.
I suppose that's why I've seen loads of like tweets that were like, if you're a journalist, there's a special circle in hell for journalists to write hit pieces.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever written a hit piece. Oh, actually, that's a lie. I've written one about Bobby Kotick.
Bobby Kotick.
Well, I don't know if it was a hit piece. He was just kind of reporting on what was out there, I suppose.
Spooky Dookie says more studios want help developer management. Bad for COD.
I mean, it's, you know,
we'll see.
We'll see.
I mean, yeah, that's all on Microsoft now. If it declines, people are going to blame them. Joshua Candle Jones says, have either of you played Mighty Doom yet?
Yes, Jez? I've been playing it a lot.
Yes, what do you think?
It shouldn't be as good as it is. I'm surprised how good it is. It's actually really fun. It's like, it's not exactly you know, a groundbreaking game, and in fact, I think it was it's a kind of a rip-off of another popular Android mobile game. But every mobile game is a rip-off of another popular Android mobile game. But dude, I really enjoy it. It's really addictive. I don't think the monetization's unfair, at least not yet. I played like, I don't know, maybe 2 hours or so. It's basically an auto battler. You just sort of like move the dude around, and then he automatically shoots stuff, and then you upgrade, and it's just really addictive. It's kind of like, it's got that Vampire Survivors thing going for it. I really enjoy it. It's really, really cool, and I do recommend it. And it's on top of the charts on iOS
number one in the US on Google and on iOS, but I don't know how that's sorted. Is it by downloads? Is it by money made? I will say it does look like. I mean, I was like, that does look kind of cool.
Try it, man. You can play it with one hand, you know. So like, if you're on the bus or something.
I don't go on the bus. You go on the bus. What are you talking about?
Okay, whatever you do. What do? You going to touch grass somewhere?
You want me to touch grass and play some Mighty Doom?
Yeah, touch some grass, play some Mighty Doom, man. I don't know. It's really good.
We have Joaquin, who says it's definitely Sega. They're the cheapest of the Japanese publishers and wouldn't cause a fuss because they're boring. Capcom would cause a headache again.
Boring.
I mean, kind of is true.
I would love to see Sonic get some AAA funding, man. I'm like, I admit something, right? I'm a Sonic fanboy. Not a lot of people know this, but I'm actually a Sonic fanboy. So when I like attack modern Sonic, it comes from a place of bitterness that it's like not as good as it should be. You know, I kind of want more for Sonic. I want to see AAA Sonic, and I want to see it return to its glory days. That's kind of where I come from with Sonic. So I'd love to see Microsoft's money back in a Sonic game, but who knows what will happen.
Yeah. Weeboro 2024 says Rand Banjo-Kazooie Best Double Act from BAFTA. I think it won some award or something. Banjo? Some BAFTA award?
Really?
That's something like that. I remember seeing people talk about it on social media. I mean, if they ever do a Banjo game, if the deal goes through, you got to put Toys for Bob on him, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones who's got to be able to do it.
Well, they're going to be all over Crash for the...
And I don't have a Lambo, and I'm not a YouTube millionaire, so I don't want to see that in chat.
He's lying. He's lying, everyone.
We'll take a couple more questions before we get out of here. Thank you guys so much for being here. Dude. We love you all. I thought it was a great show. Sorry if there's any mic issues or me dropping. Hopefully everything's fixed for next week. Keep in mind that Xbox 2+1 will be on Monday with Foss Patents talking about all the ABK things. That's in the $7.50 tier for the Patreon. Xbox 2+1. Patreon.com/XB2. Use the code, if you want to buy some Manscaped stuff, code XB2. That always works. It'll a code that'll basically be around for quite some more time.
Yes.
So, but I mean, I had a great time, Jez. Did you have a fun time with the show?
I did. This was a good show. I feel great.
I mean,
I'm in good spirits right now. You know.
I mean, you got your Diablo you're playing, right? Or you will be playing. So,
I will be playing. I was just playing Jedi on Jedi Fallen Order on this Razer Edge handheld thing, and it just works really damn well. It's Wi-Fi 6, so you know it's the future, man. This shit is the future.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, I guess that'll be it. You gonna have to take us away, but we'll be back next week, March 31st, with another show, and who knows what we'll be talking about. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. We love you all. Check out the Patreon. And with that, Jez, we say goodbye because you're in control of everything. Later, everyone.
Take care, everybody. See you next time. Bye.